Ban Yuan was born with an incredible ability inherited from his ancestor et is able to understand any language. When he became an adult he discovered that he could also absorb Someon's skill just by touching his grandfather always said that they were descendants of people who built the Tower of Babel. According to the prophecy one day a genius would be born who could retake this tower. The grandfather believed that Ben was this genius since he was a child but the protagonist and his family did not believe this story until one day while waiting for the university acceptance grade. He was summoned and transported to a secret academy. It is there that he found the legendary Tower of Babel. Ben finally believed in his grandfather and decided to fulfill his ancestor goal. The story began with our protagonist Ban Yuan when he was 4 years old. The mother comments in a humorous tone that son is already reading a book. The father replied that he is very intelligent but the mother thinks that he was the one who taught the boy to speak this word. Suddenly the protagonist starts speaking another language and his parents are terrified. The father asks how Ben is speaking a language they have never even seen. At that moment Someon enters the house saying that Ben inherited the lineage of his ancestor. This guy is the grandfather of the protagonist. And he is carrying his little sister under his arm and celebrate that a genius was finally born to conquer the Tower of Babel back. The protagonist's family are skeptical. They are already tired of this Tower of Babel nonsense. The mother calls her Dr. Yumi and asks if she had fun with her grandfather. While the father warns the old man that he should take a shower first when he returns from the farm, the grandfather is stressed. Because no one believed that it was his ancestor who built the Tower of Babel. At that moment the old man decided to explain the story to little Ben. He takes his notebook and starts to make some drawings. The grandfather explained that the great ancestor of his family had an ability that allowed him to communicate with all living beings. With this power he led large group and together they built a tower that no one can ever destroy. This tower is the Tower of Babel. Ben was just a little boy who believed in his grandfather but was upset when he found out that the old man did not know the location of this tower. The man promised that one day they would find and recover all the power of his family. When Ben was a child his grandfather told many stories about the adventures of this ancestor. The protagonist felt that he really had a linguistic ability. His parents did not interfere much because they believed that Ben had fun with the old man's stories. But then the protagonist grew up and realized that that story was too crazy to be true. A few years pass and the scene changes for Ben sitting in front of a computer, waiting to be accepted into a university. His goal was to study political science. He was angry because the results still didn't come out. Deep down the boy was sure he had passed. Suddenly the computer goes off a page. Some strange things appear. Ben approached to see what happened. A blue screen appeared in front of a computer. In another language he realized that it is a different language and still managed to decipher it. The message on the screen congratulated the protagonist for passing the best academy in the alternate dimension. A boy is surprised that he can read this language. The next moment another blue screen appeared, informing that Ben will be teleported to the place of practical evaluation. A countdown starts from the second. Protagonist ends up thinking it's a prank, and his sister Yumi was behind it. He couldn't think of someone else to play this kind of prank. Suddenly an acceptance letter arrives from the university on his computer. Man can't contain the happiness of having been accepted. The countdown ends. The protagonist believes that this blue screen is a thing of his imagination due to the mental fatigue he has gone through in the last few days. Suddenly a blue light covers the boy and he disappears without a trace. In this moment someone knocks on the door and enters. It's his sister Yumi. She looks around and doesn't find the protagonist. Meanwhile Ben is teleported and falls into a somewhat dark place. The system warned that the special exam has started. For a candidate from a lower dimension, a protagonist feels his dash from the fall and thinks it's too real for an illusion. Another blue notification appears in front of him. With the following mission he must defeat the blind goblin and destroy a core of a dungeon. Ben holds his head in denial, asking when he signed up for something like this. Suddenly a noise is heard behind him and the boy turns around. The blind goblin realizes they have an enemy. They talk to each other in a language of their own but for some reason le protagoniste understand everything the monsters are saying et puis is on to is mood so no noise escape. Then thinks it's better to try to get away from here before these things start attacking suddenly the goblin separate and start eating with a bet in all directions. One of these blows almost hits Ben et réalise that it could be fatal if it was it protagoniste besoin toute existence et believe et can get rid of these monsters. Because they can see but suddenly the boy ends up making noise the goblin run toward him and the blow grazes his face. Man falls to the ground and is in total silence. The first goblin asks what happened. The second replies that he heard a sound coming from this side. Et add that the enemy must still be here. The protagonist is horrified realizing that even if these guys are blind they easily identify any sound and movement. Man realizes that there is no way to continue hiding because he will be found anyway et immediately has an idea to distract these monsters and by time a boy then takes a rock next to his body and throw it in front of a goblin in an opposite direction to his without thinking twice. The monsters go towards the noise. It is at this moment that the protagonist attacks from behind using a stone. The goblin notices that the prey is behind and run toward him but ends up accidentally hitting his partner. The first goblin takes a fatal blow to the head and falls on top of the second. The protagonist observes the scene. The second goblin realizes a mistake et made man approach him with a wooden club in hand et apologizes and says that he is doing this to survive. The next moment he destroys the second goblin body begin to disappear and the system congratulate him on the first stunt à revoir. He receives the power of a upper dimension. Ben looks scared. A yellow light surrounds his arm and the system says that the power of a Babylonian code has been unlocked. This power will be displayed using ideogram. Ideogram is basically symbol that represents concept of things. The system adds that the concept of monsters are being absorbed into it. Protagonist finally realizes his new ability in addition to deciphering any language. It can also extract concept from things. The system says that concept have been copied. It is recommended to store or separate this in the Babylonian code. After applying it to the statistic, Ben decided to absorb the concept for himself. After doing so he says that he already feels more confident. The system says that the boy will get stronger. Ben besoin to feel or feel his body et actually feel stronger when absorbing the concept of this goblin. The protagonist look around noticing that the monsters disappeared after they had their ability absorbed. Ben also realized that in addition to absorbing a concept for himself he can also apply it to other things such as objects. For example, the protagonist finally feels safe and besoin to use the concept to create a weapon. A few hours later man clears the dungeon of a blind goblin with the help of an artifact created by himself. The boy delivers the core to the system which congratulate him for passing the practical test of the special dimension exam. Lowe the protagonist breathes a sigh of relief and asks if he can finally go home. The system replies that the candidate will be transferred to the dormitory. Ben initially thought he would go home if he made it out of the dungeon alive, but in fact he was sent to a world he had never seen before. An academical union. At that moment Ben falls into his dorm totally bewildered. The system asks him to put on his uniform and attends the interview. Protagonist complains saying he didn't want to study here, he wanted to return home. A moment later the boy put on his uniform. He goes towards the interview room determined to demand his teleportation back to the house. Suddenly Ben opens the door and comes across a green woman. He thinks she is beautiful but wonders if she is an alien. The woman welcomes her and introduces herself as Yamina, magic combat teacher at Union Academy. Ben is embarrassed. Yamina congratulates him on passing the exam. She explained that Ben has caught the attention of all the superiors. He is the first student in 5 years to create a new artifact. During the evaluation a protagonist listens to it in silence. Yamina applauds his intelligence. Ben doesn't think this is something impressive but he believes that the difference between them is the world they come from. Maybe for a woman it was a great victory. Suddenly something catches his attention and he looks out the window. Ben soon asks the teacher what that huge tower is. Yamina heard that people from lower dimension I've never heard about a Union Academy or about this tower with this question from the protagonist. She concluded that it is true. The teacher then explained that this tower is a reason why the Union Academy was created. They teach a student with the greatest talent in all dimensions and help them to reach the top of this tower. This is the only objective of a Union Academy, to beat the dungeon. That is the origin of all the mystery and danger of this world. Yamino finally replied that this tower is the Tower of Babel. The protagonist is surprised and the first thing that comes to mind is his grandfather. The old man has always told stories about this tower. And about how his ancestors were responsible for creating it, but something still didn't make sense in Ben's head and didn't understand why the teacher referred to the tower as the most powerful dungeon. A boy wondered if the tower was taken over by monsters. Anyway, it was something that couldn't be answered now. That tower made the protagonist enroll in the Union Academy. His goal became to fulfill his ancestors' wish and regain the glory of his family. After that day, the protagonist was sent back home and was able to explain to his family the reason for his sudden disappearance. Grandfather was shocked that he had finally found the Tower of Babel, while his father only supported him to do what had to be done. A few days passed. Ben was already a student within the Union Academy at that moment. He was fighting in the lower dungeon called Goblin Cave. The protagonist was already able to cast spell and had a greater understanding of his ability. Now only one attack was needed to decimate a large group of goblins. The Babylonian code was the most incredible power Ban could have. Thanks to this ability, the protagonist could absorb and manipulate the concept of all monsters when an enemy is defeated. His concept can be absorbed by Ban. After doing this, the protagonist can use it on himself or imbue the statistic in any object, and when it was thanks to this that the protagonist created his first artifact in that first dungeon and fell. His weapon was a bow with iron spikes, fatal for low-level monsters. Ban always imbued the concept of a goblin and the artifact got stronger and stronger. At that moment, a protagonist calls the system and want to know what new concept he got from these monsters. A different statistic appear in the system called Soul. The boy wonder what this means. The bet start to get excited, and the protagonist asks if he want this concept. The artifact respond positively, so Ben agree and decided to imbue this statistic. A very powerful light surrounds the weapon. The system informed that the combined concept form a perfect harmony, causing a transformation in the artifact. Next moment, an explosion happen, and the protagonist cover his face. The weapon stats are increased and realize that his weapon is now a snake and try to approach with his hand. And is afraid that his new artifact will not recognize him, but she is able to identify its owner. Protagonist realize that his personality is the same before, but now has doubt if the artifact can still turn into a magic weapon or shield. The snake wraps it in his hand, and Ben decided to give it a name and says that she will be called Eve. Then decided to check if her stats have increased and observe the board in front of him. With his own information, a life stat seemed to be a concept similar to the level in a game. The flesh seemed to replace physical stat. But what the protagonist doesn't understand is why the soul stat is so high and still doesn't understand all the names in that painting. So he assumes what each one means below and comes across some of his abilities. The first is called all-seeing eyes, the second is called all-hearing ear. The protagonist thinks that these abilities are probably related to language skill. After that, he turns to Eve and asks if she thinks she's capable of surprising everyone. Now Snake responds negatively with his head. Ban replied that everything is fine and press the teleport button. He reappears in the auditorium of Union Academy where the entrance ceremony is taking place. All the students gâtés. The protagonist is shocked by the amount of people. At that moment, he activates his ability called All-Seeing Eyes, which allow a user to understand the aura and strength of a target in a deeper way. That is when Ban realized that all those students were extremely strong, unlike the protagonist who entered through a lower dimension. These regular students went through another selection process to enter the academy, but this is not something that makes a protagonist afraid. At that moment, he tries to find his place in the auditorium. Suddenly someone yells at Ben and he turns around trying to understand what happened. Frog Guy order the protagonist to leave a upper dimension because he is from a lower dimension. Ben quickly obey and start to get out of there. This discrimination of a student who went through the regular process was expected by Ben and already knew that these guys were going to think they were better than those who come from a lower dimension. Our boy keeps walking by the student when someone calls him. He then sees his roommate called to a slide who also come from a lower admission. Ben approach and realize that the student from lower dimension are well exiled. The share are far from the rest of the student. At this point the protagonist uses his skill and is surprised. The rank of these students does not seem to be from a lower dimension. Ben believes that they are strong enough to destroy those regular. He soon tells his roommate that these places are amazing. Aslit does not understand if it is irony. Aslit is a roommate that Ban met in the dorm. Before the entrance ceremony in the first meeting they had, the protagonist was threatened with a sword after in a slight conversation. Finally understood that the boy was his roommate. They then talked about how was training to enter the academy. The friend learned that the protagonist went through a goblin dungeon and thought it was something very easy to do. But we all know how much the protagonist took the first dungeon as light. Says that even a new recruit with basic training could hunt a goblin easily. Ben looks silly hearing this after the conversation. The protagonist remembered that he arrived from training and didn't go to take a shower and then he started to take off his shirt to go to the bathroom. But his friend has a slightly strange reaction if he is embarrassed to see his body. It was not the kind of reaction Ben expected to see from a male roommate. The scene returns to the current moment in the auditorium. Ben starts to greet the girls next to a slide and can't look much at the girl with pink hair. Because he thinks she's too cute, she quickly turns her face embarrassed. The girl with the black eye look at Ben in a different way. Causing the protagonist to be embarrassed, she soon asks what this thing on her arm is. Ben realizes that has been discovered and then decided to show her. The three of them are in awe of a snake. As Light realizes that this is the same artifact before he was surprised that it has changed so much in just a few days. A girl with pink hair asks to touch her because she thought it was too cute. The black-eyed one gives a satisfied smile and introduces herself as the doctor of a martial artist. Then asks the protagonist what her name is and introduces himself as Ban Yuan. The protagonist sits next to her and asks if a martial artist like to let out explosion. This question makes the girl very embarrassed and lower her head. She tries to answer that he is not totally wrong. The pink-haired girl tries to get out of this subject a little and also introduce herself. Her name is Rachel. As Light also introduces herself and says that everyone can just call him Light, which is his nickname. Yun turns his head and Light doesn't understand what happened. The protagonist soon warns that the ceremony is about to begin and soon sees Professor Yamina sitting next to the other superior. The friend asks if the protagonist passed by Professor Yamina when he arrived here. Man answers yes and asks if he does too. Suddenly the conversation is interrupted by a light. At that moment the ceiling of the auditorium opens and an overwhelming pressure enters, involving all the students. Everyone tries to cover themselves and no one goes unscathed, not even the special student. Soon they hear an impressive voice thanking everyone for their presence. Then this person says that he is going to start another entrance ceremony of a new academy. A little later, teacher Yamina meets with the protagonist and his classmate. She asks if they also found the principal's speech impressive. The students are silent. Ben then asks if that giant eye is the principal. Yamina is surprised to hear this and question if he could really see that eye. Rachel says that most people are too intimidated to even look up and look at Ben. Believing that he used some kind of special method, the protagonist tries to disguise what he said and says that in fact he didn't see anything, he just felt a big eye looking at him. Yamina replied that anyway they want to see the director again unless it causes problems. She then approaches the protagonist and asks if he wants to have a conversation with the principal. Ben replied that this seemed like a curse the teacher log and soon advise the group to be the best. She says that the victory of her student is very important to her. Light asks if Yamina will be responsible for them And she replied that as right light is surprised the teacher decided to formally introduce herself to everyone. She says that her name is Yamina. And she teach magic combat. The teacher had that she has been assigned as the head of her vast class, which is class 11. So from today they will work together for the next 5 years. Light asks if a low-level special admission student should not be assigned to associate professor. Yamina replied that normally that as right but they are such special students that she was assigned to take care of them. At that moment the teacher takes a cup of tea and the tone of her voice changes. She then advises the boys to be careful with regular admission students. Ben observes the teacher's word and realizes that she is referring not only to grad and practical class but also to confrontation physical and teasing fight between students. Methods outside of internal competition is something that not even teacher can interfere with. Yamina says that from now on the 4 of them must stay together. They are rare students with low-level special admission. Yun is still thinking about the hostility that the teacher spoke of. She is not sure if she can hold her own in a confrontation against these regular. At this point a teacher gives another very important information. She says that the 4 are also members of a group that will climb the tower together until graduation. Ben thinks about it. The teacher smiles, saying that they have talked a lot. And now she needs to give a small gift that the Academy has prepared for them. A strong light emerges among a group of students. Yamina adds that she will explain the role and details. After receiving this artifact a little later the group held a pendant inter and the teacher explained that this will serve as a student ID card. To identify and access all the details of a student, the group can also use this pendant to teleport to any place within the Unio Academy. At this moment a student looks at the pendant, thinking about what they are going to do. The magic of teleportation is what impresses everyone the most. Light then point out that they will need to keep this stupid pendant if they want to enter the tower. Whether they like it or not, they will need to take good care of it. Rachel soon asks why the protagonist was left behind. Yun replies that there is no way to know until they meet him. The girl feels internally that there is something strange. After all, in the middle of a conversation a teacher received a call and Ben was the only one selected to leave a room. The scene changes to the protagonist sitting in a chair. Without understanding why he is there, the boy started to sweat cold because he knew he was going to have a private conversation with the director. He doesn't understand what he may have done wrong for this to happen on the first day. Suddenly a voice says that the boy doesn't need to be afraid to look at his true form. The protagonist looks up towards the voice and all he sees is a bear in front of him. He doesn't believe that this is the principal. A voice then says that the protagonist can call him Master Ban agrees. The principal then says that he doesn't normally interfere with the growth of a student. If they are weak they will remain weak, if they are strong they will remain strong. It is also not important to him whether the student will remain alive or not when they climb the tower. His goal is just to witness with his own eyes the one who reaches the end of the tower. The protagonist looks at the bear without much expression and remembers everything he heard from his grandfather when he was a child. The old man always said that his family was the only one who could rescue the tower. He remembers the day he entered the academy and found out about the Tower of Babel. It was when he promised that he was ready to risk his life and recover his family's honor. But now that he has seen the number of students who also want this, he may have been a little confused. At this point the protagonist calls the master and asks what exactly the tower is. The director replies that the tower is the path to the divine. Ban is surprised. The master repeats what he said at the beginning about not interfering in the lives of a student. But today he will make an exception because he was able to see in the protagonist the greatest potential that has ever stepped into this academy. The bear then raises his arm and an atmosphere spread through the room. Suddenly something invades that pendant that Ban received from the teacher. The master says that he will make some preparation to help him prepare to climb the tower. He reveals that he has expanded his exploration privilege outside the academy. This means that from now on the protagonist can travel to any dungeon, so Ban must make sure to own his skill before climbing the tower. The boy try to understand everything that is happening. The director then open a portal under his feet and says that if ban makes any progress, he will unlock the next privilege for him before being teleported. The protagonist asks what kind of privilege a DM reply that maybe a solo exploration of a tower ban falls into the hole. The director says he is looking forward to the next meeting. Suddenly the protagonist falls into the teacher's arms. The woman asks curiously how the meeting with the director went. Ben realizes that he is close to her melon and quickly walks away. Yamina says that the director always dismiss visitor like this. One day he will get used to it. She takes a look at Ban's pendant and realizes that he has been given permission to leave the academy. The protagonist says that the headmaster told him to quickly improve his skill. Amina says that this is a big deal. Now he can freely explore the UT dungeon outside the tower and can visit UT towns at will. This also means that Ban will gain much more experience and preparation than the other. To be honest, at first the protagonist did not understand that the director saw ability in him. In fact, the boy thought he was so weak that's why he was getting supplementary class. Teacher Yamina soon says that she is jealous. Teachers are usually too busy to go around. Ben asks if it's true. She replied that the Union Academy is designed for the students, so the teacher should be in charge of providing everything they can to them. Now she is jealous because the protagonist will be able to leave the academy and even visit Star. The teacher then approaches Ben's face and says that there is a beautiful outdoor city that she can recommend. Her name is Ronica. The protagonist feels a little embarrassed and asks if he should bring her something from there. The scene changes to a little later. Ben is walking outside the gym. He remembers that the teacher asked him to bring 2 bottles of wine called honeymoon. It is made by the priest of the temple. Ben did not expect that the teacher would ask a student to bring alcohol to the gym anyway. This is not something that needs your attention now. At that moment a boy takes a deep breath, thinking that he should use the privilege to his advantage. He then opens the inventory and realizes something: the bag that his grandfather gave him before he returned to the gym was there. At that time the protagonist was organizing his things to go back to the gym. That is when his grandfather arrived with a bag and said he could take whatever he wanted from there. Ben opened the bag and found pure gold. He asked if he could really take something like that. The old man looked, saying that these are the legacy of his ancestors who dedicated themselves to finding the Tower of Babel. The protagonist thanked him very happily, but soon after they got into an argument because the boy didn't know how he was going to bring all this to the academy. Back to the current moment, a protagonist thinks that fortunately he has the inventory for it. His grandfather always said that gold is valuable anywhere in the world, so he decided to pick up some pieces before going around. Ben note that the preparations are complete and decided to venture out a little later. He arrive in a city and realize that even though it is another dimension, a urban landscape look it similar. Suddenly he notice some small spaceship flying everywhere. Passerby are also very different from the ordinary people of his dimension. At that moment Someon called the protagonist. 2 green guys ask who he is and what he is doing here. Ben doesn't have time to answer because the guys soon recognize his uniform. They see that the boy is from the Union Academy. The men immediately pay respect and introduce themselves as in charge of a western border of the academic city. Ronica, the way a men act, draws the attention of passersby around. The protagonist also introduces himself as Ban Yuan and says that he is a first-year student at the Union Academy. One of the guards asks if he received permission from the director to leave the academy. Ban replies yes, the master said he could explore freely. The guard then says that it is thanks to the hard work of the director and the academy team that the city remains peaceful to this day. So he thanks the protagonist for his presence. The boy is a little embarrassed listening to all this. Second guard offers to help the protagonist if he needs it, since he is a first-year student he probably doesn't know much about the city or its working. Ben really understands that he is a great help and asks if men can do it. The man replies yes, this is part of a guard's job, so Ben can feel free to ask anything he is curious about. The protagonist soon points to something that looks more like a flying car and says he would like to get one of those. He asks how much it costs. A moment later, We see the boy on top of a floating bike at many km/h and is really enjoying the fact that he is out of a gym. The girl watch him fly at full speed when the protagonist asked the price of flying car the girl said that the basic model of a floating bike cost 250,000 ronea. It's kit expensive for them but not for the protagonist who had several gold bar in his inventory and took one out and asked if that was enough to pay. The guys opened their mouth in surprise and one of them soon asked where ban got such a large gold bar. The scene comes back to the protagonist on his floating bike et discovered that a single gold bar is worth 7.5 million ronia ben doesn't even know how to thank his grandfather for forcing him to bring something like this into this world. Suddenly Eve appears on his arm. The protagonist asks what she thinks of this floating bike. The boy reports that it was infused with you and turning her into a living artifact. The protagonist adds that her name is Lilith and he updates his artifact. We'll have a good relationship. At that moment, a boy began to repeat things he has already done today. He has already taken the drink from teacher Yamina. He has already got a franc for Eve, so he concludes that it is time to go back to school. The scene changes to ban light on him a glass of water and we can see on his face that he is angry. The boy scolds the protagonist for disappearing without saying anything and now coming back hungover. Ban apologies et tell his classmate that teacher Yamina insisted so he couldn't refuse. Light was annoyed that he was his roommate. He wouldn't have worried if he had been warned before. You notice something on his amulet and asks if this badge is a sign of a representative role. He received in exchange for drinking with the teacher. The protagonist assumed that he can't say what really happened, so he only says that it's a representative role. For having completed the task given by a teacher, Light enters a conversation and says that Yamina is responsible for them, so the group cannot reject any of her tasks. Yoon does not think exactly, so she says that if a group needs a representative it should be her. The girl states that she is the strongest among the four. At that moment she looks into Ban's eyes and asks if he agrees. The boy doesn't answer anything but Light loses his patience and tells the girl that she shouldn't attack like that. They are a group and should support each other, not try to be superior to the other. Light point to Yoon and goes on to say that this attitude is ridiculous. Acting like it's better is not good for the group that will climb the tower. Yoon is silent. Finish. Light says that he also doesn't agree that she is the strongest among the four. Yoon smiles and says that it's a little contradictory for a guy to say that everyone is equal in strength, considering that yesterday he himself asked Yamina if he could climb the tower alone. Ben and Rutel are just watching the fight unfold. Light tries to give an explanation as to why he asked that, but he just stutter. Ben lies tiredly on the table and thinks that his plan to talk to the group about tomorrow went down the drain. Meanwhile, the tension between Light and Yoon continues. At first the protagonist didn't want to be the representative of a four, but now he kind of understands why he was chosen by Yamina. Among the members of a group, Ban sees Light as someone with ridiculously strong pride. Yan is incredibly self-centered and bound to make enemy, while Rachel is surprisingly good. She doesn't have the personality to lead other people thinking about it. The protagonist decided to give his opinion in the group. He raises his hand and says that a representative doesn't necessarily have to be someone strong. Yoon questions why he thinks so. Ban replies that someone strong will make all the decisions of a group on his own. And the representative's goal is to unite the members, but if he acts like this he will end up separating everyone. The three look at him, understanding his point of view. The protagonist continues to say that anyway a president of a class needs to be someone who can faire a good solution for everyone. That is why he thinks he should be the representative. Yoon gets up from the table and says that since a teacher has authority to appoint a class representative, she will accept that he has this position. Ben thanks him. Suddenly the girl's face darkens and she says that honestly the only person she really wants to lead is him. The protagonist asks what that means. She says that she is willing to accept unnecessary to conquer the tower. Light begins to tremble with anger and wonder what she means by unnecessary. The protagonist try to calm down and falls on the table. Rachel calls Bannes attention and a look at her. The girl with bright eyes asks where her snake is. She really wanted to touch her at least once. Ban is startled by this request. Latte dead the protagonist mais with his class for a trial class. Several of students were really stranger. They were scattered while the teacher explained the test. A man says that for a first class. A thought of starting with a light training session. But we know a student of regular admission are unbearable. They tell the teacher that they prefer to fight with a student of low admission. Light tell his group that it seems the academy divide the class based on the student ability and a weak ansi class 1 at class 11 at that moment. The stone qui notice a peint on Bannes uniform. Et soon recognize that it is something done by teacher Yamina. After all, she is a goddess of flowers. Guy is overcome by jealousy and scream fiercely for the teacher to let him fight. Ban the student putter on to terrier after this deafening scream. The teacher asks Ban if it's okay to fight. Erecto the scene change for teacher Yamina. She access information of her student and realize that at this moment they are in the arena in a joint task with a special upper class. A woman is scared because there is no way for a class from a low dimension to be able to train with a class from the high dimension. Yamina is worried about her student. She tell herself that she doesn't know who prepared this prank, but she feel that this person did it out of malice. A scene comes back to the protagonist and he apologizes to the teacher, claiming that he is not at the level of this student and does not think he can win. The teacher replied that this is not an excuse. Ben wonder if this guy is trying to help the regular student humiliate low admission and then turn to the teacher and says that it is not an excuse. That is the truth. Ben add that he was accepted as special admission student because of his unique ability, not because of his combat skill. Protagonist even says that he has other way for the teacher to evaluate his ability as special student, so it wouldn't make sense to force him to fight. The man gets stressed by a way. Ben speak and start yelling. He asks if a boy is trying to teach a teacher. Protagonist asks if he is not an assistant teacher. The man does not accept this question and takes 5 more points from the band total. The boy has already lost 7 points for not obeying the teacher. Ben takes a deep breath, wondering if this is how this guy is going to play. The next moment a boy has an idea and he says that it would be better to take advantage of this week a preparation time and do the fight next week. His group is surprised. Everyone is silent while Ben repeats what he said before. The student of regular admission begin to mock him, saying that a week of preparation seemed like a joke. Meanwhile, a girl in a hat sitting on the upper step silently observe the unfolding of the situation. The student complains that the protagonist is running away from the fight. Someone says that it is obvious that his skill is at rock bottom. That is why he is asking for a week of preparation. The teacher arrives at the height of Angers and asks if the protagonist still want to change the schedule of his class. Ben look bored while Light tremble with fear. The teacher then declared that he has a decision next Tuesday. There will be an official fight between Erecto and Ben. The format will be completely open to the public, and the entire academy will be able to watch a live broadcast. Man comes to the conclusion that in fact Guy want to make his humiliation a great spectacle. The teacher approach, saying that it is better for the boy to show his skill since he asked for this period of preparation. A protagonist quickly interrupts the teacher, answering that he already understood. After that he was to Erecto, informing him that he is looking forward to the fight next week. The stone guy look at him annoyed. Ben turn his back and start to leave. In fact, the protagonist did not want to greet Erecto. What he really wanted was to use his skill to confirm the opponent's stat. And that worked. The boy sadly realized the level of the enemy. It looked like it's going to be a tough fight. Erect has a high level and a low of strength. Protagonist believed that if it was any member of his team it would be easy to defeat this guy, so he regret being the weakest of the group. But he is determined to defeat the enemy and level up to help his team at the Tower of Babel. At this moment a protagonist approaches the girls and asks why their face looks so gloomy. That is when he notices the absence of young girl face the enemy class and says that unlike a representative of her class, She is an expert in combat and question if they are not curious to see the skill of an inferior student. Of special admission a protagonist réalise a problem that is arising Yan takes an elastic band to tie her hair while daring anyone to face her. The student look at her with anger in the eyes meanwhile the girl stand in the middle of the arena standing waiting for some open the teacher gris teeth. The protagonist even try to use his skill on the girl but for some reason his eyes can't fully comprehend the extent of Yune's strength. All he can see is a dark aura exuding from the girl. There is no way the student of class can feel her overwhelming aura at that moment. Yun makes a sign with his hand, challenging him erect to fight her just like he did with Ben. Student look towards the stone man. The girl's face is terrifying. When she says she will crush him erect feel a chill run down his spine. Ben decide not to interfere and notice that erect is terrified. After all he was his original target but now he was challenged by Someon and didn't expect, and to make matters worse is a girl used to combat anyway. The protagonist thinks the guy will have problem because if a back of people will notice but if a fight he will be so hurt that a week will not be enough for his recovery. The protagonist quickly has an idea and goes toward Yan and says that he will have a fight with Erecto next week, so if she want to she'll have to wait her turn. The girl doesn't understand why he is intervening and asks if everything is okay. Ben confirms and thanks him for a concern but says he really want to fight. To prove his own skill Yan is surprised by these words and turn around embarrassed. She says she thought the boy was just a guy who trusted trick. But maybe can have a little masculinity. After that the girl declared that she will not fight Erecto but asks if there is someone brave to face her. No one dared to answer. Girl complained that they were barking so loud a little while ago but now that a real threat has appeared they are hiding like a dog. Yun starts to walk away when suddenly Someon asks who she is calling dog. A man with horn says that it is always a weak who unite in pack. The someone who pretend to protect their little group. Yun look expressionlessly on his face while the protagonist wonder who this guy is. Even among a special class he seems to be on another level. Light says that this guy is Oruma, a ruler of Kido dimension. The protagonist seems confused without knowing who Oruma is and what dimension is Kido. The friend explained that excluding Union Academy, there are the dimensions with the highest hierarchy. Ordama comes from a family that rule one of these dimensions which is called K2. Ben finally understands the size of the problem. The climate close 100% between Yan and Ordama. A few minutes later Guy approaches a teacher and asks for something. Rachel asks what the object in the teacher is and his light reply that it is a recording device. They must be filming a public video. The teacher soon throws the object up. The protagonist asks what happened after it is filmed. Light reply that afar he knows they share everything in something called an internet but he doesn't know what that means. Ben quickly opens his system. The friend asks if he knows what an internet is. The protagonist replies yes, it's a network created by company or educational institution to exchange information. At that moment Ben opens a YouTube and shows it to them. Rachel immediately finds the channel where the live broadcast of the academy is being held. The protagonist realizes that the professor is doing well of a student for high admission. Bu is confident that Guy will not have his glory. At that moment Yun and Orima face each other, both exuding an oppressive aura. Yun calls Guy a newbie and says he will let him take the first step. Orima raises her hand in her direction and decides that she will end this arrogant attitude. The next moment a man orders her to kneel. Strong power catch all the students and they feel their body getting out of control. If he is being forced to kneel, the protagonist realizes that it is a type of power that is out of his reach. Some student can't stand it and falls to the ground with the pressure. Ben sees his body conflicting with his brain. It seems that his body wants to obey. If it were the most natural thing in the world. Suddenly Ben widens his eyes and says that this power is a distortion of natural law. Light soon asks if he has discovered what the principle of this ability is. Protagonist is about to answer when he feels someone grabbing his arm. He turns around and sees Rachel, then asks what happened. But a girl starts shaking as she looks at the overwhelming power in front of her. At that moment Yan increase his energy and destroy Orda S power everyone is impressed they thought Orda S skill was the strongest. In that location open praise Yan for eliminating his power it is a girl saying that apparently she has some ability. Yoon reply that he can't say the same about him after all or his power is a ridicule his horn the gilog and try to attack with the same power again. But the girl wasted no time and run at him prepared with a kick Orima is surprised by a real combat Yoon asks if he really thought she was going to be waiting for him to concentrate to attack her at that moment Orima is hit and thrown back and start to prepare a spell on Isa. While thinking he should be more attentive suddenly Yoon appear behind him says that he has to work his body more since her brain doesn't work. Orima quickly turned with his hand to attack her but Yoon was fast and landed another kick to her face she mocked saying that he was terrible at fighting the tried to hit Yoon in a very possible way. But it's in vain light is shocked to see how overwhelming Yoon is she is defeating the commander of a dimension easily the protagonist says that. It seemed that key is used to suppressing and defeating the open using a distortion of natural law but this method did not work on Yan. That is why he is losing while they attack Orima keeps getting beaten the protagonist says that he is good with powers but not in real combat light is surprised. That Ban is understanding the principle of their ability at that moment or him asks how Yoon dare to insult him the girl asks if he is still able to speak. And continue attacking suddenly the launch a fierce attack with all his power and ends up hitting the ground eventually destroying everything. Orima soon screams with fire in her eyes saying that he will destroy her Yoon activate the fatal rope skill and prepare to attack a well. Suddenly Someon clap and says that it is enough next moment Professor Yamina destroys the attack of to with her own skill the arena is covered by flowers. And the opponents look at each other trying to understand what happened Yamina says that in this academy students are not encouraged to fight for their lives. She gives an angelic smile and adds that it is better to save this for the tower after a lot of conversation a teacher breaks the hallucination of flowers. The man is shocked that it is an illusion and even managed to smell the flowers Orima just turn his back and leave Yoon praise the teacher for being kid strong. And retreat to her group she asks the protagonist how it went and reply that the girl was amazing and was about to say more things. When Rachel hugged him from behind Ben asks if anything happened the girl just trembles and realizes that she is still scared of Yoon. And tell himself that this is cute suddenly their attention is drawn to Professor Yamina she tell Professor Farrell that he deserves a punishment. The guy keeps his head down while being scolded Yamina says that he continued even tug if new things could go wrong Farrell apologizes but Yamina says that this will not end with a simple apology so he must be prepared after that the teacher leaves she approach the protagonist. And her mood soon change Yamina adjusts his brooch and says that he cannot use his gift wrongly the students are shocked to see how the teacher totally change her personality with Ben Yamina says goodbye to the student and leave protagonist realize that the teacher's intention was to calm things down. But now it seems that she has shaken it even more at that moment the student look very angry at Ben as if a boy had stolen something from them the next day. The news about Yoon and Artemi fight spread everyone comments about an inferior having beaten a regular admission student Someon comments that the first year student look amazing the recorded video show exactly how Orima had no chance at all in the video. Also appears the protagonist and the teacher the student notice the way she treats him and ask what this boy has send change to the protagonist and his team. Ben reads some comments from that video and says that the whole world seems to be talking about them Yoon says that there is something very strange about it. The protagonist asks what it is she then comments that Orihim was a geek known to have the greatest potential in class 1. But it turned out that she noticed a girl in a hat in the upper corner of a stair Yan felt a much greater power coming from this girl Ban replied that she couldn't notice nothing. Meanwhile Light says that Ban's name is spread through a school community the protagonist says that he is being targeted. Because the students are afraid to challenge the true potential of his group that is Yan the girl angrily asks if the protagonist knows what the student are really talking about. His name is not being mentioned in anything involving a fight. Ben preferred to act as if he didn't know that people were talking about him, and the teacher at that moment light draw attention to Rachel, who is sitting far from them. It seemed that the girl doesn't managed to overcome the fear ehs of Jan. The protagonist doesn't understand how they are still sharing the same room. Suddenly ehs an ID and takes something out of the inventory. The boy is determined to make Rachel feel more comfortable. He then takes out a special elixir jelly concentrated in dozens of fruits. It promotes the overall growth in the statistics. The protagonist offers the jam to his friends to spread on bread. Rutel smell it and look towards the jam light, and Rutel start eating. They are surprised by the taste and commanded this jam is the best thing in the world. The two devour everything that comes their way. A protagonist look at Rutel and calls her to join them in the black of an eye. The girl approaches with a chair close to the protagonist and asks if he could make one of these for her too. Ben quickly on her a loaf of bread. She eats it and says it's very good. The fruits are fresh. Light is impressed that this jelly is made by Ban's skill. Meanwhile, Yoon asks to eat more. The protagonist replies that she can eat as much as she wants. She says that she feels like she is eating something. Ben replies that it is not that expensive, but that they are a team. The best thing is to share it with everyone. Rachel continues to eat her bread. All happy. Meanwhile, Jan refuses to eat for free. Even though Ben says that everything is fine, she suddenly gets up and pulls the protagonist by a tail. Then says she will personally teach him a martial art in exchange for this elixir. Man looks on in disbelief with the bread in his mouth. Suddenly, Yoon uses her pendant to teleport with the protagonist to a training room. The boy says that they left in the middle of a meal to come here and asks what she will teach, and uses a wooden sword and asks him not to move carelessly. Suddenly, she runs to attack and Ben is taken by surprise. The sword stops inch from his face. Yoon logs saying it was an impulse. The protagonist is paralyzed. He notes that it was a movement without an ounce of hesitation, or it's hard to believe that this scam was executed by a human. But it was at that exact moment that Ben discovered a new concept called penetration. A protagonist wonders what it means at that moment. Yoon tries to get his attention and asks him to concentrate. She explains that an impulse doesn't exist in just one form. It can be done with anything. The girl soon shows the most basic and fundamental meaning of an impulse. She makes a quick movement with the sword and push forward. She makes a sequence of the same movement and again to the wooden sword near the protagonist's face. Jan finishes by saying that there are numerous variations, but these are the basics and only need to worry about making an impulse. The protagonist understands a little of a basic concept that she wanted to convey, but he also knows that this girl has trained for years. So for her it will be easy. At that moment, Yoon asks if he wants to try. Ben replies yes, however he asks her to be patient, because it will be a clumsy imitation. A girl is in the background logging. She says that she spent years mastering this, so it wouldn't make sense for him to learn so fast. Suddenly the protagonist surprises her and makes the same sequence of movement and stops a wooden sword inch from his face. A girl is surprised and wonders how he understood the concept just by looking. On the other hand, Ben believes that he can't replicate the attack completely, because so far he has been too focused on mixing concepts. He did it because he thought he could only get stronger by combining them. At that moment, Ben takes off his coat to be more comfortable, then declares that he can get stronger by strengthening his power. So now he feels safe to replicate the girl's fatal attack. Yoon is silent, watching a series of blows. After that, the protagonist tries to catch his breath, and she says that there is no reason to try so hard. Jan advises him to try later when he fights a difficult opponent. Ben agrees. Suddenly, several taps of a system appear in front of him. He realizes that he has just increased his stats just by brandishing a sword a few times on the first screen. The system says that he has understood and absorbed the concept of penetration swordsmanship. Has also been absorbed a sub-concept of martial art. The last notification showed that he has learned and internalized the concept of martial art. The protagonist was very happy with how much he gained in just one training. Suddenly another notification appear informing him that his stat have skyrocketed. The protagonist is shocked because the penetration skill. Was a concept est just one and is already at level 16 in addition his swordsmanship did not increase for anything. Ben remember that he eliminated several goblins and nothing changed but now his swordsmanship has increased to 20 his combat skill have also doubled overall. The boy wonder how this is possible. Suddenly Yan approach and complain that he lead to her saying that he had never practiced martial art. Ben tried to explain that he really never did, he just did what she had told him and it worked. The girl doesn't believe it and says that if people only learned in the first class they wouldn't need teachers. The protagonist shake his head agreeing with his thought. Bu says that maybe he learned fast because she is very good at teaching. This statement made the girl very embarrassed and her cheek turned red. Ben goes on to say that for the first time watching her movement he felt the depth behind them. This word made Yoon even more shy. The protagonist couldn't stop praising the girl. She preferred to turn her back so a note to show that she was embarrassed. Man soon says that anyway he loved her teaching. And intent to pay with the jelly elixir that she liked. Yoon replied that this does not make up for what she took today. The protagonist asks if she is serious and question what she needs. The girl looked because her plan worked. She then gives an angelic smile. And says that he doesn't have to worry but makes it clear that in the future he will figure out how to pay her. Ban is surprised. Because he has never seen such a smile on this girl. Yoon soon returns to his normal mood and says that they need to go to the next class the next moment. The girl activates her teleportation and disappears. The protagonist stands there thinking to himself that she can also have an adorable expression. The scene changes to Rutil and Light both walking through the gym courtyard and fiddling with their cell phone. Suddenly Aggie bump into Rachel and push her back. The girl a frightened blue-haired student asks where she is from. Rachel simply paralyzed. The fear is so great that she can't give a word. Light soon intervenes and says that Rachel is in the same class as him so he questions what Aggie wants. The student annoyed by Light's sudden intervention. And start cursing the protagonist and the black-eyed girl arrive at the place of the next class and says it's not too late. And she replied that she thinks they are on time. At that moment Aggie, who is trying to pick a fight, start to leave and tell Light to be careful. The protagonist asks his friend what happened between him and those guys. A little later the group attends the class. The teacher says that the history of Union Academy does not begin when the director founded the school. But from a moment the tower appeared in the primordial dimension. Suddenly someone takes a picture of Rachel. Those same guys are also watching the class. They comment among themselves that this girl shouldn't even be here. The one with blue hair says that he would give a queen's life if she decided to marry him. Rachel feels this look from afar and feel uncomfortable. Ban and Light are also both protagonistes angry. Because the teacher doesn't do anything with the tone of voice of these students, it is impossible not to hear what they are saying. Man thinks for a moment and wonder if the old man is ignoring them or can't hear them. Suddenly Light loses his patience and calls the teacher his attention. He complains that the other students are making noise and it is difficult to concentrate in class, so he asks if the old man can do anything. Teacher asks the student not to make noise. And soon after returns to teach. Ban and Light do not believe that this is all a man will say. The delinquents start to say that Light is nothing but an idiot. One of them comments that he only couldn't get Rachel's number because this guy got in the way. Other question if they are a couple. That is why this guy is interfering. The one with blue hair says that the girl has a nice body. And maybe this type as a conversation unfold. Rachel's expression is one of horror. Light gris is tit in danger et even breaks the pencil he was holding. Ban put his hand on his shoulder and asks him to calm down. Light question how the protagonist can be calm when these delinquents are saying these things about his classmate. Ban asks if his friend is planning to fight them and says that he doesn't have time to waste on useless things. Light is surprised to see that his friend considers it useless. The protagonist then pulls out his cell phone and says that fighting in class will make everything worse, so he calls his friend to see this. Light realizes that Ben is watching a live broadcast on YouTube again. This time from their room and asks what that means. The protagonist reveals that he will solve the problem and is doing this broadcast himself. And expect all the students to hear what the delinquents are saying. Light is shocked Ben look frighteningly at he says that the idiot's conversation is being recorded and exposed at this moment. Guys keep talking like if everything was right. Meanwhile Eve holds a small camera behind the boys. Suddenly several negative comments about the action of the delinquent start popping up on the protagonist screen. The guys are being called idiot and disrespectful. In addition they also spoke ill of the tower. Someone asks if the teacher wanted to do anything. The protagonist of his group carefully observes the negative comments, which for them is positive. Yan praise his intelligence for doing this. Light is also pleased. Yan asks if Ben peut the title of History of Union Academy to reach public opinion and possibly the superior. The protagonist replied that he want to make sure the guys are ruined. Rachel watch everything that is happening. Suddenly one of the delinquents asks what kind of comments are these that he is receiving. The trio soon realize that they are being recorded and the blue-haired one order them to look for a camera. The protagonist is silent in his corner. One of the guys find Eve when he approach she disappear into thin air. The blue-haired one assumed that this setup was made by Light. At that moment the teacher approached with anger in his eyes and asks if this group is someone that was making noise before and then order everyone to leave the GRG, saying that he is trying to solve a problem and was recorded without his permission. A teacher doesn't care about this and yelled that everyone should leave. The next moment the old man expelled the student with his power. The teacher turned to the rest of the students and says that this group will receive F for all year, so if someone want to have some FATE just disrupt the class ban. Realize that even an assistant teacher has enough power but still thinks that an F is not enough. From what they told Rachel, Light is also not satisfied. At this moment Rachel finally speaks. She gives a gentle smile while thanking the boys for defending her honor. Girl also added that this punishment should be enough. Ben replied that he really didn't do much and he doesn't think he is that strong and that's why he thought of another way to deal with the situation. So there is no need to thank him. His friends gave a smile, pleased that everything worked out. The next day in the training arena, the protagonist team had the bad luck of practicing in the same arena as a group of delinquents while Light was called Rachel hid behind Ben in fear. The blue-haired guy approach and Light asks what he wants. This time a leader calls him an insect and demands that he explain what happened yesterday. The red-haired one says that thanks to that damn broadcast yesterday his semester score is ruined. A guy in the mask adds that now they are being avoided even by his friends. The protagonist look around and notice that the teacher is sitting. This one also look like he wanted to do anything. The blue-haired guy is annoyed and asks what the boy just said. Light quickly changes his mood. His eyes turn black. He then agrees to repeat and calls everyone barbarian. The group goes crazy and interprets this as the worst swearing in the world. The leader pulls a knife close to his face and starts trying to embarrass Light, saying that he is from a lower dimension. Suddenly a sword flies by and lands gracefully in Light's hand. The protagonist and the girls are surprised. The system soon notifies that Ban has discovered a new concept. The sword exudes an intimidating yellow power. The blue-haired guy begins to tremble. Light brings the sword to the enemy's neck, surrounded and kneel on the ground. The protagonist realizes that his friend has totally changed. His aura is different. It seems that Light is overflowing with anger and wonder if all this is because of that sword. He also remembers that his system has discovered a new concept. At that moment Light says that it is good that a guy has recognized his place. Meanwhile the leader realizes that he still cannot move his leg because of the pressure. His friends try to do something but they are also afraid. Light calls a teacher and asks what kind of punishment a person receives for suddenly attacking his classmate with real sword during class. Man thinks for a moment and confusedly replies that the academy encourage practical fighting, so to some extent the group of delinquents is not wrong. Light replied that this is not exactly what he asked the professor. Then says that he removed a personal artifact. Light presents his defense, saying that he was only defending himself from an enemy attack. The old man says that there is no way a quand Denis that he released his energy first light replied that this was his means of avoiding damage. The protagonist watches scene closely. The blonde asks how the teacher intend to deal with the insult that the student made to him. The man thanks for a moment and then says he didn't see any of this light gris is it in danger and decided to finish off a guy with blue hair. Everyone look horrified but suddenly he is stopped by a pat on the forehead given by une light complaint and the girl tries to explain that he is not as powerful as he thinks. So he can't go around acting like this. Protagonist is happy that light has really been stopped. Meanwhile the teacher leave angry Ben talk to Rachel about how dangerous it all was. On the other hand Yoon continue to berate light a little later. The group meets in the cafeteria. Ben comments that he thinks they will never be respected. Especially the teacher who always seem to protect students from high admission and remember that even has a fight scheduled because of one of these teachers. Light tremble and says that maybe they can think about trying to improve the situation based on how Ben solved it last time. The protagonist is against doing this because last time there was almost a big problem and it is jam while the boys continue talking and tell himself that light is current way. Is very different from what he saw in the arena. It was as if his friend had suddenly changed, as if someone had pressed a button. And there was still that intimidating sword at that moment. The protagonist tell Light that he wanted him to be honest. Fan asks if his friend can control the power he showed. Before Light get up from the table and start to say that he can control himself, a boy claimed that he only did that because he got angry with the lies of a professor. Man asks if that was all there is to it and says that lies really are bad but he is not sure if he should believe that Light can control that force. The friend asks the protagonist to trust him and assure him that nothing like today will happen again. Yan says that this is a relief she believes. That things could have turned out very badly if he was not stopped. Light lay her head on the table after hearing so much criticism. Yoon tell Ban that she is starting to feel the advice that teacher Yamina gave a few days ago about a regular. The girl believes that if they continue like this, school life will get more difficult. So a representative she thinks that the protagonist should think of something for her future. A girl says she is willing to listen to him. Ban is taken by surprise. He remember that over the last few days while living school life he definitely began to realize what was bothering his team, the mentality of superiority. Based on birth or strength and especially the strange content directed at the lower dimension. Thinking about it, the protagonist wonder what outsider like them could do in a place where these things are considered common sense with no idea what to do. He asks the group what they think need to be done to gain the favor of a wide and unspecified group. Light replied that he believed that conversation can bring people together. Yan on the other hand thinks that power is more effective. Ben replied that they are both wrong. He then makes the camera sign to the group and says that what he need to gain the favor of a group is his appearance the next day. The group meets again. Yoon asks if they are really going to make a channel that shows their daily lives. The protagonist replies yes. And add that where he comes from is a very common way to build a relationship. A girl understands that what they need to do is build an image and show it to the general public. Ben takes the cell phone while Rachel helps with the lighting. He says that when you build an image in people's minds, it creates a sense of familiarity so it can help the group. Light asks why they have to act out if they are looking for respect and admiration. Ban replied that it is not a staging, it is a real combat match. At that moment Yoon asks Light to concentrate to start fighting. Yoon comes out ahead. Ban and Rutil follow the fight happily. Light try to get up. Yoon start to mock him, calling him weak. She says that it makes sense why he was so impressed with that strange artifact. Last time the girl then encourage him to draw his sword if he needs strength. Light hears this and Gris is it in danger. Ben continue recording with his cell phone and says that things are going very well. Rachel look at the fight a little scared. She doesn't understand how this can make their school life easy. The protagonist replied that he wants to change things immediately but it will have an effect. The fight between the students continue fiercely. Ben says that et intent to show everyone that his group is not something they can handle anyway. It's not good to worry about the result yet. At this point the protagonist tells Rachel that her beauty is too precious for her to stress about things like this. A girl is shocked by this unexpected compliment. Ben says that a girl is more beautiful when she smiles. She has a face that can conquer anyone wherever she goes. So it's a shame to waste it on worry. Rachel hears this and give a shy smile. She feels that whenever Ben says something this thing will happen. Meanwhile, back to the fight, Yoon asks where the guy is running and says that so far it was just warm-up. Light begs the protagonist to save him since that day. Class 11 has followed Ban's recommendation, recording everything from his day, even a bad soup, et at all the videos were posted on their channel. Call the Rebellion response was more than positive. The audience began to follow the day. They watched the fight and wondered if it was real. The protagonist also recorded the entertainment of his team with some games and even some conversation with teacher Yamina. In addition, viewers always begged to see Rachel, claiming that she was very cute. The audience was loyal and always entered to see the video until one day the Rebellion channel posted an event informing that the next day her group was going to start climbing the tower as we saw in the preview video. Class 11 followed Ban's recommendation, and all the videos were posted on their channel called Rebellion. A protagonist also recorded his team's entertainment with some games and even some conversation with teacher Yamina. Viewers always begged to see Rachel, claiming that she was too cute. The public was loyal and always came in to see the video until one day the Rebellion channel posted an event informing that the next day his group would start climbing the tower. The next day the protagonist screamed that he can't believe it. The Rebellion channel gained more than 1,000 subscribers in just one day. They celebrate their popularity while teacher Yamina watched them. She praised the class, saying that they were very smart. No student thought of creating entertainment content, and not even she would think about it. Ben is even happy that the first training video has become so popular. Yamina says that this is very good and asks if they are remembering that today is a day to climb the tower. The student kept this information in mind and have already worn comfortable clothes, except for the protagonist who was still in his school uniform. Rachel suggests wearing something that helps with movement. During the battle in the tower, Ben hadn't thought about it because where he lived there were no specific clothes to fight, so he adjusted the taille of his uniform and says he feels comfortable anyway. Yamina says that if everyone is ready they can go. She creates a portal and they are teleported to the tower. The class is quickly recognized by the other students and members of a Rebellion channel. They look surprised at the famous group. Meanwhile, Rachel seems worried about the place. Yamina says that this is the entrance to the tower and has nothing to worry about. The tower has been open for a few hours, but the order of entry is by series. Just way in line. The protagonist is happy that they are the first to enter. Yamina says it's thanks to their visibility at that moment. Light's attention is directed to a group of boys and he realizes that the guys are not happy with his presence. Ban says that it must be a group of fans who also subscribe to the channel. Yan says he can see that there is not only a look of admiration here, someone is exuding a murderous aura. Yan calls Ban's attention and he says he already knows there are only 4 days left for the duel with the erect. The hatred that open field is visible. So Ban knows that to win within that time he need to reach a level that erect has never reached. The teacher gathers class 11 and says that the time has come. She wanted the exploration of a tower to end before the weekend to ensure the safety of each one, so she asks if they know how long they will stay inside. Ben asks if a group has any change and they answer that the plan is the same. The protagonist holds the robot camera and tells the teacher that class 11 will spend 2 nights and 3 days. They will return as soon as possible. Yamina wishes everyone good luck and the students are covered with a light. Ben says that his ancestor can hope for his victory. The scene changed to the past when Yamina gave some instruction to her students. She realized that they were wanting to film inside. Using a autonomous artifact Ben intended to record the situation inside the tower that small robot was also a self-operating camera created following in the footsteps of Eve and Lilith. Rachel is delighted with the little one light checked the information in the interface and asked why it is says that the internal structure of the tower change. Yamina explained that each floor is called a room and when you clear the room or overcome the trash space itself move a challenger to the next room. This means that the more change. The first they are arriving inside the tower also they will not be able to go back to the preview room each time a room change. The monsters that appear are different and strange. The same goes for Traian was drinking her tea comfortably when something appeared in her mind. She asks what will happen if any of them are murdered inside the tower. This was a do of all the students but they didn't have the courage to ask. Yamina gives a smile and says that this is a critical question but they don't have to worry because all the challengers eliminated. In certain areas reappear at the entrance of the tower light and ban breath a sigh of relief. The protagonist asks if they will have to start from the first floor again. If that happens Yamina reply no as soon as they enter the tower the student ID will register the shift so they can go back where they left off. She shows cependant and says that this is why this student ID is so important they should not forget to take it light and ban are confident. While Yoon remembers that the teacher said earlier that in some area of the tower it is impossible for students to be eliminated and asks if there is any challenging area where students are more likely to be murdered. If this is true it means that the tower does not guarantee safety. Ben had not thought about it. And look with interest at the teacher waiting for an answer. Yamina is forced to praise Yan's cleverness. She informed that there are indeed area and situation that will put their lives at risk. It is impossible to return to life if they are eliminated in this place. The scene change to the current moment. Class 11 has already started to climb the tower. The first monster is called closest. It is a kind of slim. Dead devour all the challenger's equipment light divide several in half with his sword. Yan attack on the other side with magic. Meanwhile, the protagonist tries to apply the same strategy and used in other dimensions but for some reason he can't extract the concept from that place. Yoon asks if everything is okay and Ben replies that he just lost concentration. She remembers that he asked for time to find out something and asks if he succeeded. The protagonist replies that he was trying to extract this flame but it didn't work. Yoon says that it would be good if he could extract the concept from the tower. Ban asks her not to try to guess her ability in advance. At that moment a giant slim appears behind Yoon about to consume her. The girl did not notice the presence and needed the protagonist's help not to be devoured accurately and destroys monster. Yoon recognizes in second that Chen is Eve. The slim are defeated in second. She didn't know how a snake would act on the battlefield and is happy with her performance. Protagonist says that it can be noisy and Yoon says that it can't be loud. Then that at that moment Rutel attacks the enemy with his claw causing destruction through the area. Yoon managed to find a noise bigger than Eve's and says that the basic of a battle is to hide and avoid detecting the enemy but no one is obeying. Ban defends Rachel, saying that her fighting style is completely instinctive. Rachel and Light continue to attack the monsters while Yang complains about the noise. A few minutes later Light warned that room 1 was cleaned and it was very easy. Suddenly Yoon feels a dark energy building up and warned them not to let their guard down. Light asks if she sensed the presence of an elite monster and she replies that maybe. The boy then asked for help from Ban. The protagonist quickly activates the infinite reading eyes and says he waited a long time for it. He looks around and shoots Rachel's name saying that obelisk is up front. Without thinking twice she uses her claw to destroy the stone wall. Cloud of dust comes out of a collision. Light is impressed. Rachel knocked down the obelisk before the elite monster could fully materialize at that moment. Rachel takes the monster's enhancement core. The protagonist thinks this attitude is suspicious and tries to talk to her. Rachel's hair color change causing fear in Ban. The girl looks at him with innocent eyes while holding the core. Ban asks why his hair color has darkened. The girl is silent. Et réalise that Rachel used the at furnace it's a burning ability emotion a fuel to gain power the protagonist thanks that the scary Rachel look the more a year will change color. At that moment a girl approach and asks if she looked like a monster and smiles and says no she seemed quite trustworthy Rachel is not sure if she can continue. Yoon enter a conversation and asks why she is so worried about losing control if this happens everything will be fine because she will be murdered. Before she even cause any damage Rachel begin to tremble in fear the protagonist find it funny but try to calm the situation. He says that Yoon cannot do that because they will have to go back to the beginning of the tower. Yoon replied that if Rachel loses control, the three of them will be forced to go alone. She thinks it would be better if only the protagonist accompanied her in the exploration. Light feel rejected. And Ban doesn't want to leave Rachel out and tell her that he will find a solution to this. Abandoning her is not an option. A girl is happy hearing this and grabs her hand. The protagonist is embarrassed and says that he is only doing a job of leader of a group. Yan complains that Ban is too kind. And Light tries to calm the situation. At that moment a portal appears and they are teleported to room 2. Light doesn't feel much difference from the preview room because here there is also moss and weeds. Ben analyze the core of a elite monster that Rachel eliminated. The monsters were even good. Without thinking twice the protagonist copies the concept of statistic and apply it to himself. Ben imbued fusion in his sword and also fed Eve. The snake strength suddenly increased. Yan sneak up to press the protagonist yell saying that she shouldn't approach like that. Yan suggests that a train is censé mort. So a note to be scared around. Light interfere in the fight and warn them to be careful. The monsters in room 2 are about to appear. So it's best to take the situation more seriously. At that moment Light can't even finish speaking because he is attacked by a red mist. Luckily Yoon is censé are fast. And she use magic to cut the attack in half. A monster is an evil spirit that target a magic of human. Light says not to let your guard down. Yan suggests letting Ban take care of all the combat in room 2. Light and Rutil are against it because it is too dangerous for Yan. It is a great idea. Since the protagonist has a duel next week and this would serve to improve his skills, the girl manages to leave Ban unanswered and stretches and says he will take care of it. Light tries to stop his friend saying that it is too dangerous. Ban replies that Yoon is right, it would be a waste for the three of them to wear themselves out while he just watch. Rutil and Light accept the protagonist's decision but Light makes it clear that he will interfere if there is a problem. Ban thanks him and calls the black-eyed girl and says that he will use energy then expect her to help Latte. The girl smiles and says that she is sure he will stay alive even if he tries too hard. At that moment the protagonist raises his hand forward and calls Eve. The snake turns into a weapon and starts shooting at the entity. The evil spirit tries to resist the attack. Meanwhile Light is enchanted with the weapon and wonder if it is a piece of equipment from the protagonist's world. It seems too powerful because the speed that destroys monsters is superior to the sword attack. Light does not understand how the protagonist has it because only soldiers from his country could be armed like this. Be sure that those metal bullets could handle second rat assassin and even first rat assassin. Yan is also surprised. She deals very well with martial arts but she feels that the protagonist's attack equal her skills. Negative part for Ban is that he doesn't have much perception. Then he can be caught off guard by an attack in a blind spot. Yoon was right because at that moment the evil spirit appears on the protagonist's back. Light and Rutil run into his direction, screaming his name. Ban and notice the attack in time and takes his sword. The quick cut and the evil spirit Rachel is relieved. A Light asks where this sword came from. Ben's new artifact is a long sword with the best stat that could exist in that tower. Light has never seen the protagonist fight with a sword and praise the way he handled. Ben replied that it's not a good a. Light and Yoon the black-eyed girl is happy hearing this. The protagonist goes back to destroy the clone left by a evil entity. Eve keeps shooting. Ben uses the sword to divide the spirit into several parts. The duo finally clears the second room. The protagonist hoped that this was the last Eve been the last spirit with a chain and the protagonist decided to rest a little. The monster gain a few more minutes of life. Because if it is eliminated now another room will appear but the challenger want time to think better about how they will act. Yoon notice by the remain of a last clone that Ban is already using a skill again in the preview room. She also realize by a way a protagonist fight. That has not lived a life involved in battles. This arouse her curiosity even more because Ban is evolving very quickly so. Yoon try in every way to find out what skill has. Meanwhile Light and Rutel praise Ban's control during the fight. Yan says that his performance was good. A protagonist is surprised. Because he didn't expect to be congratulated by a girl. Yan says that he will dead the sword much better than other. Full White realize that this insult is for him. And start yelling at the girl. They both fight and the protagonist takes the opportunity to take a drink from his inventory and start drinking. While saying that his group really is amazing and didn't rest even at break time. At that moment a tree look at him without understanding where he got this soda from. Yan accuse him of drinking it all by himself and the protagonist defend himself by saying that these things also sold outside so anyone could have bought it. Light uses a scary look to say that they are now thirsty. Ban returns the drink to the inventory and says that it should only be used when the one who cleans the room is tired and open a smile and says that he can leave room 3 whether the protagonist is against it. And the girl says that she want to try that drink. Abrupt Light decided to go to the next room before another fight break out between them. The last evil spirit is eliminated and a portal appear under the challenger's feet. Man close his eyes and check his internal stat. It's much better than he thought. It's now about average for a Union Academy student. Swordsmanship technique improved when he picked up the sword in room 2. The protagonist decided that what he has to do now is improve his swordsmanship more and more because he will face erect in the next training, maybe increasing a level of martial art. Is enough to defeat the enemy although erect is much then him man comes to the conclusion that he cannot close the gap between his level and erect. So what you can do is count on Yan's help. It is more important to nurture a skill you already have than to create other. When it comes to growing in martial art there is only one person who can help you. At that moment a protagonist mentally asks Yan to help him. The boy does not know how to ask her for this. Yan is one of the best when it comes to martial art and that is why the protagonist feel intimidated to ask her for something. He comes to the conclusion that he want to be able to do it and now he thinks of a second alternative. Ben is so lost in his thoughts that he doesn't hear the voice calling his name. Light starts screaming aloud and the protagonist finally wakes up from start telling him to get out of it. Ben look around and realize that he is falling. He depart and asks where the floor is. Rachel also screams. He falls this time. A part of the floor of the third room is made of spirit and cause Eve. And manage to use a chain to hold Rutel before she falls on top of a blade. The protagonist is also helped by his artifact and he realizes that a trap was created exactly at the point of fall and feel a familiar sensation. At that moment Yoon tell him to be careful. The protagonist looks surprised at the girl. Woo is upside down on the ceiling. Yoon says again that he will be it if he continue in this position. Suddenly Ban hear a blade noise. The walls of room 3 open and spears fly toward him. The protagonist wonder what he is going to do. He doesn't want to let Rachel fall down there. A girl starts screaming. In the same second Ben calls for the 2 artifacts. The chain hold Rachel and Ban takes her in his arms. Lilith appear. Protagonist apologies for shaking the girl too much. Rachel replies that everything is fine. Suddenly another noise comes out of a walls again. The arrow are sunlight counter a first attack with an axe. Then jump and swing a sword cutting the spears. The boy is also using his wing artifact et doesn't understand why he found such a dangerous trap in room 3. Yamina had said that the trap wouldn't appear until room 20. Surely something went wrong. The difficulty suddenly increased. At that moment his attention is drawn to Ban. Light wonder where the protagonist got another artifact from. Meanwhile Lilith advances at full speed to change the direction of the attack. Ben realizes that he is not working and thinks of another alternative. Rachel takes the opportunity to hug tighter. The protagonist is taken by surprise and blush. Arrow continue traveling and when it's Lilith Ben décide to do some maneuver to get out of a vision of attack et manage to gain time and light approach praising his new artifact. Protagonist soon asks what these wings are. The Franc reply that et has a question to ask first et asks if this thing is also from his world referring to Lilith. The protagonist reply that it is a floating bicycle. Then notice disappearance of a fourth member of a group and asks where she is. Their light reply that it's been a long time since he has seen Yoon and assumed that she's already fallen into some trap. Ban doubt that she's been caught so easily. In fact, Yoon is attracting all the arrow. In opposite direction, light asks again when he thinks this attack will end. The protagonist read in a manual that there is a time for challenger to resist and pass the level bu et doesn't know the exact duration or how it works, so he asks light to investigate one side while he look at the other. The two separate and the room open new walls to attack. Ben try to identify the pattern of activation of a Trawen et realize that all the arrows are aiming at light. A blonde boy was the first to move. Then the protagonist notice a pattern of a trap and was the first target along with Rachel. Because they both moved recklessly, Ben start calling himself stupid while a girl notice a arrow on Lilith. Protagonist pulls the arrow that managed to hurt his artifact and says that he need to tell everyone to stop unnecessary movement immediately at that moment. The arrow in his hand begins to disappear. Ben is surprised, wondering if he was able to read the concept of this thing. It's strange because in the first room it didn't work. The boy tries to find a reason when suddenly something comes to his mind and he decides to test if it really is a coincidence. Ben takes a sword that was on the ground. And as soon as he touches a sword it also disappears. The concept found is decapitation. The protagonist was right to read the concept, however the concept that appeared now is completely different from what he thought. Suddenly Rachel draws his attention to light, who was caught by surprise by a giant wave. The blonde boy managed to escape from the water and blamed himself for letting his guard down. He imagined that only sword and arrow came out of a trap. At that moment light felt his vision starting to blurry and assumed that there was something mixed in the water. The roof opened and more arrows are pointed in his direction. This time light knows he won't be able to answer the next trap, so he leans on his sword waiting for the worst to happen. Protagonist quickly leave Rachel behind and advance with Lilith toward light. Rachel was left alone because Ban was going to risk everything to test if his ID was rigged. He apologized and said he couldn't drag her into it. Rachel accepted and hoped he would be fine. The protagonist touched water and activate the concept of acid and wave. A golden light comes out of his hand and he says that he already understood why the concept absorbed earlier was decapitation. And not sword. ELL Ban test his ID. Yoon finally returns to the center of a room. At that moment she sees the protagonist at an absurd speed and breathing fire wherever she goes. The goal is to get to light. The protagonist considers that touching any substance at the moment it manifests determine the concept that can be found. That is how he found the concept of decapitation in the sword. At that moment a ray of sharp arrow fall on light. Protagonist screams that he will deal with it and activate his infinite reading eyes, and light sees a light appear under his body. The guy recognizes that he is the protagonist and is afraid of him being hit by the arrow. To Ban focus on the concept and raise his hand forward trying to read the intention of the projectile. His reading portal are quickly pierced by the trap. Lilith and Ban get closer and closer to the trap, leaving light scared. The protagonist try to absorb most of the evil energy that has in the projectile to break their shape, and they lose their objective. Several swords and spears begin to disappear. Ban holds all energy in his hand and the next moment an explosion happens. It was exactly as he planned. Rachel feels the piece of a projectile disappear and celebrates happily, realizing that the protagonist succeeded. Ban finally lands on the ground with Lilith. After the attack was interrupted, light runs toward him asking if he is okay. A boy takes a deep breath and says that it was too close. He holds the orb in his hand with all the power left from the projectile. Light is surprised that he has directly interfered in the trap and asks if it is a new skill. Suddenly the conversation is interrupted by another attack, this time. It is so fast that the boys have no time to escape thanks to the girls. The attack is stopped. Yan and Rachel jump on them to defend them from the arrow. Yan scolds the protagonist for continuing with this reckless hobby and said that he will get into serious trouble if he doesn't stop it. Ben awkwardly thanks the girls for their help. Yan tell Light that he kept getting into so many problems and even lost focus again. A portal appears under the feet of a challenger and Rachel is relieved that this was the last trap. Meanwhile, Yan and Light start a new fight deep down. Ben finds it funny. The way they always have a disagreement for some reason in cursing, and is happy because in the end the group help each other when it is at risk. It is proof that the team is working well together. Yoon confessed that she was waiting for the right moment to act. Light and Ben are surprised. The girl then revealed that she only did it because she wanted them both to be indebted to her, so she leave. Of course she will charge in the future. Ben saw that his feeling of camaraderie was just an illusion. Before a new fight they were teleported to room 4. This time the ceiling is low. Protagonist is glad that at least they will not be attacked from above. Before while the group talk, a dark mist form behind them. Ben notices and quickly use his gun to shoot that thing. However, nothing happens to the enemy. Light scream that they are spider from a tower, a unique monster that appear in any room of a tower. Regardless of level, the protagonist realizes that they are good because they perfectly dodged have attack. Light puts a sword in front of his body and says that it seems that in this case a weapon is not effective enough. The spider in the tower are random and there is no way to predict what their weak point is, so he asks Yan to help. This time a girl replies that she will take care of it. The protagonist is angry because he did not expect that such strong monsters would appear in room 4. Yoon ordered them to stand behind her and tell Ben to watch closely because it will show him what he is looking for. The black-eyed girl cast a spell on her hand and sent a blast of energy to the spider. Opponents are consumed and thrown. Some scream are heard and Ben looks surprised at the blast of energy. Yan's attack was stronger than his bullet and left most of the spider knocked out. The protagonist appreciates the skill and Yoon says he will leave the rest to him. After all, he doesn't want to take all the credit. Ben asks Light to protect his back and Rachel to watch the ceiling in case something happens. Then he approaches spider with the sword in his hand. The protagonist understands that Yoon let him finish off the enemy because he knows that he wants to recover a concept in the end. She doesn't seem to be such an individualistic person. Ben performs the first attack, leaving Light and Rachel worried. The weapon is so strong that the protagonist can now lower the sword over his body. Suddenly the spider's eyes turn red and it tries to attack. Ben retreat and then pick up forward momentum, hitting the enemy in the head. Light and Rachel are relieved on the other hand. The protagonist considers that attacking and retreating is not the best option because more spiders are appearing. Suddenly he remembers something and calls himself an idiot for having forgotten it. Ben takes out of his pocket a ORB he took from room 3 and says that now is the perfect time to use it. The ORB with a level 20 ability is imbued into the sword. The artifact evolved immediately after it had perfect compatibility with the user. The long sword had a significant increase in its stat. Now the protagonist carries the most powerful artifact to destroy those spiders. This time just one cut is enough to defeat the enemy. Light can't hide his surprised face. Yoon just watch in silence. Meanwhile the protagonist seemed to notice something strange. He thought the cut would come out cleaner. Light notices a spider accumulating and calls Rachel for help. Yoon is almost sure that for a brief moment a protagonist has imbued something into his sword. Since now he can cut through enemy that he couldn't touch before, the power of Ben's sword is overwhelming and he also seems to have improved his swordsmanship. His skill have been improved without relying solely on his power. All of this was noticed by Yoon with her considerable duel. She understood that normally when someone strengthens their weapon or has a powerful sword it ends up swinging like an idiot. Unlike Ben who adapted quickly, the girl thinks that if it continues like this he will achieve the true essence of cutting on his own. She didn't want to interfere in that sequence. Bu felt that it was a waste to use that amazing sword with which Spider Yun became known as a greatest prodigy in the martial world. After overcoming a calamity Bu now she thinks she is stupid for standing in front of someone whose talent makes her past sympathetic. Deep down Yun doesn't feel like stopping the protagonist, so she makes a decision to make it her own. Suddenly Ban feel a bad energy on her back. And look from one side to the other looking for the enemy. Light asks what happened and Ban replied that he felt some goosebump. Yun stay behind as if he had nothing to do with it. The protagonist asks if she wanted to use the energy blast again and the girl replied that he has been acting alone. Then Ban says that she wanted get that drink. Light finish last monsters and says relieved that the place has finally been cleaned. Meanwhile Yun and Ban fight over a soda. Suddenly everyone is interrupted by an external message. That arrive in the system and asks because something like this has arrived. Now the three challengers stay together while Rachel look at two portal. That appear in front of her. Light seem incredulous at the message asking everyone to leave the tower. The protagonist fear that something has gone wrong. To make this sudden request and says that the message came directly from a director and at that he doesn't have a good feeling. Bu et doesn't intend to leave the room until someone explains the reason for this message. Suddenly Rachel squeak and Ben look back scared. The portal is finally noticed. And they see the amount of Spider. Now Yun realize the reason for the director's emergency message. The challenger have no choice but to retreat. Yun takes the teleportation pendant and they have a bad news. The student card is simply not working. Ben yell that they are in prison. And Light remember something that Professor Yamina said about a phenomenon where even students can be murdered permanently at that moment. The Spider begin to emerge from the portal. Light and Rachel are the first to advance in the middle of a deadly battalion. Ben does not believe that the teacher's prediction is coming true. Yamina said that there would be a high probability of dimensional pirate invading. The protagonist did not know what dimensional pirate were and she summarized by saying that it was an invade. The problem is that is abnormal invasion cause an irregular phenomenon. This means that if an irregular phenomenon happens, the academy cannot guarantee the safety of a student. All the rules inside the tower are distorted and areas that were safe become dangerous. The number of monsters multiply uncontrollably and thousands of other problems appear. That is why Yamina asked them to keep in mind that if this happens, the academy can't interfere. Getting stuck in an irregular phenomenon is the worst thing that can happen to a challenger. Unfortunately, the teacher's word turned out to be real. At this moment the group faces great difficulty to get out of that tower alive. The alternative they find now is to escape to a larger space. They are chased by the Spider. And Light warned that he does not know how long they will continue to come. Rachel and Yan see that the Spider have already entered the same room and there are so many that Yan says that these things seem endless. She raises her hand and launches a blast of energy. Lightning strike opponent and they are thrown. Light prepares the sword and asks the girl to continue the attack. The protagonist not with interest. That dozens of Spider have already been murdered by Yan S. and Light is also making an effort. Certainly the two will be quite worn out if they act alone. At that moment Rachel uses claw to attack the Spider. Her hair is already almost all consumed by black. The protagonist knows that. Rachel avoid talking about it, but if her hair change completely it will be a nightmare scenario. Ben wonder what the worst case is. Her thoughts are interrupted by Yun. She refers to Rachel as Bast and says that the girl is losing control, but they can't reject Rachel's help. Because it's getting more and more dangerous. Ben takes the soda out of her inventory and tells her to drink and tell Yun to rest while he goes to all those things. The girl can't hide her happiness at receiving that drink, but she asks if the protagonist is sure he can handle it. He looks at this question and then takes the pen out of a grenade. Ben tells her to look carefully and throw explosive at the invade. Rachel and Light stop for a moment. The grenade glows during the air raid. After an explosion takes over the place, Rachel and Light are forced to retreat. Light asks what this power is and the protagonist replies that he tried hard to create this thing. He asks his friend to rest a little. Because now he is going to attack with Rachel since the girl seemed to still have a lot of energy and decided to leave Rachel because she is too unpredictable to trust. In addition, it is necessary for Yoon to rest because more monsters may appear and she is essential the protagonist advance toward the spider with Lilith suddenly. The system interface appear notifying that the bloodthirsty poison of execution as long sword has increased to 15 ban is surprised. Because he had done nothing with the sword, the system had that he vaguely understood the concept of cutting and the depth of a cut has reached level 2. At that moment the blade of a sword turned red. The protagonist does not know how strong this bloodthirsty poison is but decided to test it. He handles the sword from side to side cutting. The invaded man is impressed by the trajectory of the sword. Now it seems to reach much further. The protagonist continues the attack while thinking about what just happened to his sword and assumes that the bloodthirsty poison extends the range and distance of the attack. The negative part is that the sword consumes a lot of red liquid from the protagonist and realizes that he can't use it often. Light soon asks what strange aura is emanating from the sword. Ban changes the subject asking where Rutil is and is informed that a girl is exterminating some monsters. Maybe it's better to help her. The protagonist tries to stop Light from going but and replies that he has already rested enough. And can help. In addition, it seems that a battalion of spider has decreased. Yoon agreed that the flow of monsters has stopped. Light says that normally when a monster wave stop it, it's because he lost the battle or something strange is about to appear. Rachel continues the attack until she realizes that there is no longer any spider. She stops for a moment and another portal forms. This time a boss spider appears. The protagonist is angry because the teacher said that monsters like this only appear in room 50 and asks if he still hasn't realized that everything went wrong. The protagonist walks towards the boss and is helped by Light. Ben asks him to focus on the elite that is red. The boy says that he doesn't just have a high-level monster to deal with. The protagonist asks what he is talking about and when he turns around he notices another boss spider behind them. Now they are surrounded by 2 elite monsters. Light depart while Yoon drinks his drink. Quickly the protagonist realizes too late that Rachel has lost control. The girl attacks the monster head on with her claw. Light worry and Ben says that maybe it's better then asks his friend to accompany Rachel on a front line. While he and Yoon go to attack the other monster, Light agrees and run toward Rachel. Ben holds the sword wondering what he will do. He thinks that to start shooting down the big monsters, it will be necessary to use bloodthirsty poison. Ben can't come to any decision and Yoon realizes, so she says that he knows he can't win but he still refuses to ask for help. The girl is very close to the protagonist's face and says that he is very proud. Ben is embarrassed by the approach. She returns the drink and says that it is not bad. Then pulls the sword and says that she will want more of this even if the cost is high. Yoon face a monster. Ben is surprised that she is unsheathing the sword. Normally she can do everything with her bare en so et doesn't understand why to use a sword now and assume that the girl is trying to teach something. Yan says that he just doesn't want to get his hands dirty so he shouldn't be fooled. Ban is embarrassed by a misunderstanding. The truth is that the protagonist was right and tell himself that a single move is enough for him to understand lightning comes from the sword. And she asks Ben to watch carefully. The protagonist couldn't focus on the girl because he heard a familiar noise and looked towards the second spider. And realizes that Light is going through trouble. Rachel has really lost control and is preventing Light from defeating a monster. A girl pushes the blade with her claw. Light ends up falling and Rachel turns her attention to the monster. She looks completely out of control. The protagonist sadly realizes that everything has become a mess. Yoon calls his attention and asks if he is not paying attention to her. Ben tries to tell her what's going on. And the girl interrupts him. She says that everything will be fine if he focuses on her. At that moment Yoon lowers the sword and the enemy is split in half. It only took a single swing of the sword down, a simple move performed by a martial art prodigy girl. The protagonist felt that the swing of that sword could divide the world. Yoon finishes the attack and band system appears displaying his achievement. A protagonist instantly understood advanced technique. And his power control increased thanks to a skill he managed to understand a part of a very powerful and complex martial concept. Now the depth of his soul HAS reached 390. And martial art HAS reached 97. Protagonist realized that Yun is so powerful that just a glimpse of her martial art was enough to increase her stat. The system doesn't stop notifying her swordsmanship HAS also taken a big jump in point. The protagonist assumed that Yun HAS enhanced this attack. The concept he learned is too deadly to bear. Ban wonder how a person can infuse something so murderous into his sword. The protagonist get lost in his thoughts and Yun tries to talk to him. Suddenly she gets close to his face and asks if a boy was able to see it carefully. The protagonist gets scared and she asks what happened and scolds her again for getting so close. When he is distracted, Yun changes the subject and on the spider core to him. The protagonist finds it suspicious for a girl to give it to him since she was the one who defeated the monster. Yan replies that it is a reward. And advise him to accept. Suddenly Light yells for the two to stop flirting and come help him. They must hurry up because Rachel is going crazy. The girl just climbed on top of a spider. The protagonist didn't think she would lose control like that after her eye turned dark. Yan says that Light looked completely useless. Poor boy got caught in the spider's web. She says that the best thing is to leave Light there and wait for Rachel to finish him off. The protagonist says that only one person can stop Rachel. He look at Yun and expect her to do something, but the black-eyed girl replies that she has already done her part in the work. Ben knows how to make her change her mind and says that they are in the middle of an irregular phenomenon. This means that if any of them are eliminated, there is no way to guess what will happen to the rest of the team. Yun realizes that he is right. The girl began to stretch and says that she will keep that best entertained while they deal with the spider. The protagonist celebrates that his plan worked, but his mood soon changes. When he realizes that he will have to defeat the spider, Yan casts a spell near Rachel's face to get his attention and then says that he wants to have a lot of fun with her. Rachel is enraged after almost being hit and jumps toward Yan, the black-eyed girl. Look that he managed to get her attention. Rachel destroys the ground after his landing and tries to hit his claw on Yun. The attack were unsuccessful. And the martial artist knock Rachel to the ground. The girl screams in pain and the ground below forms a hole with the impact. Yun stands in front of her, asks if she's still full of energy. Rachel is getting angrier and angrier. Hearing the girl refer to her as Bast, the protagonist realizes that things are getting tense. Yun yells that it's no time to be distracted. Ben agrees with her and looks at her own problem ahead. He doesn't know exactly how to overcome this and asks if Ben correctly saw his first attack. And he asks what she wants to say. Suddenly the spider tries to hit him. The protagonist retreats in time and Light asks if everything is okay. Until that moment the spider was already well injured, but he had the energy to fight. The protagonist tells himself that he can't lose to an injured monster. Appear from the portal in the form of a chain and tra all of a monster's paw. Light asks how it is the spider. Yun hears this and turns to see what's going on. Rachel realizes a distraction. Meanwhile Ben takes advantage of the fact that his legs are immobilized. To add bloodthirsty poison to the sword, the blade takes on another color. The protagonist handles the attack within his range. Light wonders if this will work. Yun thinks the attack is too low to eliminate it. HAS to be above the head. Ban realizes too late that the range is too short. In addition, the bloodthirsty poison was not activated correctly. The sword HAS some flow at that moment. Eve's chain began to give way and one of a leg escape. Protagonist realizes that he has no choice but to use both cutting and bloodthirsty poison skill at the same time. Suddenly, the spider attack and a flash of light appear in the middle of a collision. Yan looks afraid of a worst having happened and Light screams the name of a scared protagonist. Thick dust dissipates slowly. Ben manages to reduce the impact by protecting himself with the sword. He falls to the ground holding his arm. The protagonist thought he would not resist the moment the spider attacked and changed the angle of the blade if he had received that damage head on. Both the blade and his arm would have been broken. The protagonist does not know how he managed to act so quickly. It seemed that fraction of a second stretched for an eternity. He soon remembers the attack that Yun asked him to pay attention to the system. Notify that a has mastered the concept of flooding by dodging the enemy's attack and realized that it was that blow of Yun that influenced his swordsmanship. The boy leaned on his sword to get up and didn't understand that she wanted to awaken a hidden skill in her martial art and thought that Yun was just teaching him a move. Out of kindness thinking about it, the protagonist decided that he will reproduce his attack and position a sword in front of his body. And says he will try again. The spider use his leg for a new attack and soon move the sword sideways. White watch curiously. And has a familiar feeling of this movement with the training of yesterday where martial artists redirect the enemy's attack to the side to stop a damage. If everything goes well, it can even open up an opportunity for a counter attack. This technique is not used much because most people are it. Even before getting the counter attack, light fear that Ban is one of those people, so he hopes that everything goes as a boy planned even if has never wielded a sword before. At that moment Ben notices a retreat from the enemy side, then lowers the blade with all the pressure forward, then move toward a side of a spider. And use the sword to redirect his power and continue making the same movement until he escapes. Meanwhile Rachel continue the fight with Yan. The girl prepares her clothes. The black-eyed girl easily dodges the attack and puts her foot down for her to fall. Rachel stays on the ground. And Yun turns her attention to the protagonist. She realizes that Ban is using the essence of flow instead of a technique she taught. Essence of flow is a martial art created in a central plan to deflect the opponent's force. Most artists don't use it because it has a high chance of going wrong. At that moment Ben managed to hit one of the spider's legs. Yan admires the effort and risk he is going through. Anyone in his place would be using simple technique. Yan has always dealt with more domineering technique, but now she found it very interesting to observe what Ben is using. Suddenly Rachel's quick calling her attention. Yan realized that the girl has finally calmed down. Meanwhile Light continues to ask for help to get him out of that web. Yan ignores the request and looks at the protagonist. Thinking that he will not win if he continues like that, she waits for Ban to deflect the opponent's force and counterattack with equal force. At that moment the protagonist picks up momentum and swing a sword at the enemy, then combine two skills. The blade display a golden light. The protagonist jump above the spider's head and lower the sword with all his strength. Light open his mouth in shock and Yun celebrate open his cut in half. Ban sit on the floor tired. The system praise him for synthesizing the internal concept with the external concept and creating a stronger concept. The protagonist breathes a sigh of relief, telling himself that he succeeded. His stats have increased. Suddenly the protagonist is taken out of his thoughts by a voice asking for help. Light reminds him that he is still in prison. Yan says that he can take care of a Bast and replies that they want allow from Sumeon, who just took down an elite monster. Light apologies for asking too much on the other hand. Yan complains about Rachel's resistance and says that he would rather beat up with that idiot. The blonde boy feels offended. The protagonist says it's a great idea and calls if the snake materializes in his arm. And he asks to absorb the concept of a spider web that he Light. The next moment Eve absorbs the orb and turns into a chain now. The protagonist pick up Eve and throw it at Rachel. The girl is arrested and tries to resist, but it's no use because the chain are reinforced with magic. In addition, a chain will get more stuck if he tries to escape. Rachel continues to resist and ends up in an uncomfortable position. At that moment Ben thinks indecent things, looking at a girl. Light covers his friend's eyes while saying that he shouldn't look at it. The protagonist asks if it's okay for him to see this and Light changes the subject because he was very embarrassed. Yan realized that the room has not changed. Even after the monsters were defeated, fortunately the chains were efficient in calming Rachel. The protagonist warns everyone that the student ID card is back in operation. It is better to take the opportunity to get out of here. Everyone agrees when suddenly a voice speaks to them. A frightening energy begins to accumulate and the voice asks if it was these children who passed the test. The four challengers are paralyzed, feeling the pressure exerted by the energy. The voice says that she came to leave the reward. The energy transforms into a woman and she says that she will give the group the opportunity to make a contract with an observer of 10,000 eyes. Meanwhile outside the tower Yamina we for her student anxiously suddenly a teleportation portal appear in front of her and the challenger leave. Several stones are thrown with the impact the protagonist try to understand if everyone is okay and Light asks where they are. Yan says that this is the entrance to the tower. Yamina goes to them and check if they are without injury or sequels. The teacher is very worried. The protagonist reassure her, saying that everyone is fine. They are observed by other students who recognize the group that owns the rebellion channel. Yamina confessed that she was worried because no one left with the evacuation notice. She asks if something happened inside. The protagonist look at the group, and they are silent and doesn't want to say what Rachel did and asks the teacher to go to another room first. A few minutes later a challenger arrive at a place to talk privately with Yamina and tell them that class 11 was caught in an irregular situation after entering room 4. He doesn't understand how it happened right at the beginning of the tower, so he asks if there was something outside. Yamina gives sad news that a student unfortunately was eliminated by an outside intruder. The group widens its eyes in disbelief at what it heard. The teacher says that the academy is taking care of the situation, but the challenger of the same team have not yet overcome what happened. The irregular phenomenon was exactly due to this event. From the beginning the pirate dimension was targeting new students if a student lost their student card as soon as they are murdered, they will not be able to be resurrected and will be trapped in the tower forever. Ban asks what happened to the invaded. Yamina replied that they escaped, and finally join a conversation and says that this seemed to have been planned. There are many invaded trying to climb the Tower of Babel. For intruder it is a perfect opportunity to this when the new students are entering the tower so they can assassinate a talented new student who passed the academy's esteemed entrance exam. They damage the prestige of the academy and gain qualification à climber. Maybe this is a reason for the invaded to take the student card. It is proof that the academy has failed. Yun add that on the other hand the academy will make an excuse saying that enduring these intruder is just another ordeal that freshmen must overcome. Dodging responsibility. Yamina is saddened by Yun's word but a girl does not change her statement. For her the academy no longer makes sense. There are invaded who blatantly invade the tower that is the very essence of the academy and the academy cannot prevent its own student from being murdered. The girl add that now the claim of being the best academy among all dimensions seem ridiculous. Her teammates prefer not to interfere because deep down they agree that Yun is not wrong. Yamina tries to say that the girl is misunderstanding. She defends that the academic union always protect its students but from a moment they enter the tower the responsibility seems to be the academy. They also can't prevent the invaded from entering. Yun can't deal with this answer. She thinks that once again the academy is shirking responsibility. The girl takes her student ID out of her pocket and says she won't stay here. The teacher tries to stop Yun from leaving and even so the girl teleports. The protagonist tells Yamina that she need to understand Yan something unpleasant happened inside the tower. The teacher asks him to say exactly what happened. Ben doesn't know how to say it and starts stuttering, explaining that something appeared before they left. Yamina asks what it was. Light and Rutel are still silent and trembling with fear when remembering the situation. The protagonist says that they have found a constellation. A constellation are transcendental bodies that observe numerous dimensions. And when they find Someon they form a contract. These transcendental beings exert influence in that dimension. They give powerful magic and special ability. A well artifact but they demand a law in return. Even so there are few who refuse the offer of a constellation are undeniably attractive. Yamina is surprised and the protagonist assures that the observer of all the citizens a strange voice to talk to them and promise power. In exchange for the fulfillment of their order. Suddenly Yamina screams that this is amazing. Ben does not understand the reason for the joy. The teacher says that it is very lucky. Coming into contact with a constellator on the first day in the tower means that her talents have been recognized. Unlike Professor Yamina, Class 11 doesn't seem happy about it at all. The protagonist asks what the academy's position is in relation to contract with constellation. She replied that The school usually encourage you to take advantage of opportunities. The tower is a place where the interest in constellation is most concentrated. The teacher keeps saying that this is good news. On the other hand, the protagonist just thinks that it is unbelievable. That a place like the academy has no defense against intruders. Suddenly the teacher interrupts his thoughts and asks what exactly the observer of all the sitter there. Ben replied that it was murder. Mood quickly change and the teacher thinks it is a joke. Bu understand that Ben wouldn't do something like that. Ben says that the contract was basically for them to commit murder against each other. The last one standing would sign the contract. That is a reason for Light and Rutil being silent all this time. A constellation said that they were children of surprising potential, then promised to grant any wish for the two. That bring the head of the other to teammate Yan and Ban were the people that the constellation wanted to sign a contract with. She insisted that she would help pass all the floor. Countless promises were made, thinking that one of the challenger would accept giving up a Fran's head in exchange for power was the most lunatic thing the protagonist had ever heard. At that moment Yan stepped forward. Ban quickly called his name and the girl said she wanted to be alone. Her eyes shone brightly in the direction of a constellation. The protagonist tell all this to the teacher. Yamina is surprised by a girl's courage. Ben replied that Yoon used all his energy to drive away the constellation. That superior being just wanted to use them at all. The protagonist asks how the situation of the tower will be. Yamina replied that the academy will monitor the roof of the tower on the weekend to catch an intruder so they can't enter again this week. The protagonist hoped to gain experience during these days to fight with Arek on Tuesday. But now he has been barred from climbing the tower anyway. He has no choice but to train alone. The protagonist soon remembers something and materializes his recording artifact. He says he is thinking of reporting what happened in the tower. In a report along with the record he captures. The teacher says he can't do this and says she wants to get together with the other members of the team to watch together. The protagonist thinks it's not a good idea. The other members are not happy with the school management in abandoning them inside the tower at the risk of their lives, so they don't want contact with anyone from the academy's disciplinary committee. In addition, everyone is physically and psychologically exhausted. Yamina says that she understands and will strive to make sure that nothing like this happens again next week, so she hopes that none of them think badly of Jim. Light says that they need to go rest now. Yamina tries to say goodbye, but Rutil and Light teleport before she finishes speaking. The protagonist is about to do the same when he is interrupted. The minor remembers that the constellator wanted to contract with two members of class 11. She questions if a constellation specifically asked Ben and Yan to eliminate Rutil and Light. Protagonist has a reality check when he remembers that this was a request. He realized that the observer was not just trying to pit them against each other. The divine being didn't want Rutil and Light to reach the top of the tower. He even referred to them a useless burden while referring to the protagonist and Yoon a beloved children. The constellation ensured that they would become the best climber because he could see the radiant talent of the two. Before that to happen, Yoon and Ban needed to finish off Rutil and Light. A few minutes later the protagonist returned to the dorm room. Light was sitting on the couch hugging his knees. Ban comments that this position seems uncomfortable and says that he can't even imagine Rachel doing something like that. Light doesn't react to the joke and asks if the protagonist is trying to provoke him by saying that he is a masculine. Ban assures that he never thought of something like that. Light says he knows in fact he just wanted to. Van Light refers to himself as trash and says that it's not even worth insulting someone like him. The protagonist didn't expect to find a guy so depressed. Suddenly Light says he hated the protagonist. Ben replied that he hated him too. The protagonist decided to say the same thing as his friend to break the mood a little, but it didn't help. And he asks Light to be direct about what he is feeling. Ben doesn't mind hearing it even if it's just a complaint. Light starts the outburst by telling that he was one of the greatest talents in the world. He was in it may seem like an exaggeration, but it is not. His family and everyone admired his technique. The king entrusted him with the sacred sword. Everyone was sure that he could obtain the power of the Tower of Babel, and would become a final guardian of his dimension thanks to the support. Light came to the academy full of expectation, but everything changed when he heard that observer treat him a useless burden. The protagonist thinks that the word of that thing should not be taken seriously. Light replied that ban only thinks so, because he was chosen by he is just a spectator of the two who were chosen by a divine being. These transcendental beings are much stronger and more knowledgeable than humans, so he asks how Yun and the protagonist could so easily reject her offer. Ban realizes Light's frustration. A fact that he refused is because he found this type of proposal absurd. He is not willing to get stronger. By eliminating his comrade, Light still thinks that the protagonist only thinks so because he has overwhelming power, but he probably wouldn't have been able to reject. Affirmedly a Ban or Yun, Light would hesitate to eliminate his friends, but is not sure if he would keep that choice, so now he feels resentful and cannot forgive himself. A little later that night, the protagonist finished taking a shower and realized that Light has gone to sleep, so he head to bed at that moment. Light calls his name and apologizes for winning, like that he only acted that way out of jealousy. The protagonist smiles hearing Light apologies for taking out his frustration on a friend. He takes some hot chocolate and leave it on the table and says goodbye, saying that he will go out for a while. Light thanks him and the protagonist leaves the room. He feels that Light has changed a lot since the first time they met. At that moment, Yun is passing through the hallway when she sees the protagonist. She takes the opportunity to get close to his face once again and says that now she doesn't need to invade his room and jump back in fright, and asks what she's doing in the boys' dorm. Yun makes a sign of silence and says that it's not a problem if no one finds out. Ben tries to resist and is dragged to a safer place. They both sit on a bench between the male and female dormitory. Yan asks how the burden is. Light would have freaked out if she heard what is being called. The protagonist scolds her for talking like that, but Yun says it's the truth for her. Light is nothing more than a pathetic person without talent or adaptability. Ban replied that he doesn't agree. Light is skilled in swordsmanship and also has many other skills. Yun thinks that the guy depend on the sword. His skin combat instinct is special skill come from the sword. Without this, he will be no different from a useless fool. The protagonist is truthful with Yan's harsh word. The girl does not stop saying that Light is a good for nothing who paralyzes at crucial moment, and is tired of this conversation. But Yun says that maybe it doesn't make sense to stay together. Everything will be lost if one day Light loses courage and spirit. Rachel is also going down the same depressing path. If it continue like this, there is no more growth. Ben doesn't understand if Yun want to insult them or is worried anyway. A protagonist decided to be sincere and says that she is not very different from Rachel. And Light, a girl, looks surprised. A Ban says that she has been acting strangely since she met a divine being. She even treated the teacher badly. Yun is embarrassed because she didn't imagine that his accusation would turn against her. She asks if Ban discovered this using his skill, and he replied that he doesn't need to. The boy takes a chocolate from the inventory and asks if everything is okay with her. Yan accepts a hot chocolate. If she were receiving the most amazing gift in the world. She is happy to know that he cared, but clarifies that she only acted that way because she was very angry. Ben asks what made her angry. Yun says it's about that this 000 I'd observed. She asks if the protagonist shares the same thought, and reveals that she thought about discarding Light and Rutil because she feels that they don't help at all. Ben says she never thought of something like this, and asks what nonsense she's talking about. A girl confesses that she would have had a different attitude if she had been moved by the idea of taking only the capable with her. She wouldn't have been able to murder her companion, but she would have let them be eliminated indirectly through negligence. She asks if the protagonist is angry that she thinks about doing it. Ban question if she would do it, and the girl says yes. The protagonist then calls her an idiot. Yun wanted him to take his deepest thoughts seriously, but realizes that he does not intend to abandon Light and Rutil, so she asks If the protagonist thinks they both have talent and a reply that a does light wield sword incredibly well, the only problem is that a trust all his potential in the sacred sword and can't keep up with the situation anti-undead at that moment. Light is in the room drinking the hot chocolate. That the protagonist left for him Ben also thinks that Rachel is incomparable, that physical ability and potential she possesses is incredible. The only problem is that she still can't handle the innate emotion, but the protagonist is sure that they can fix their problem on their own. When that they commence their talent will far surpass anything you can imagine. You can't help but be happy to see the protagonist excited like this. Then she says she'll trust him. Ben crack a smile on his face and asks if a girl will help Rachel, and Light Yan reply that if those two don't overcome their struggle and evolve, she'll take out all her frustration on Ben. The protagonist wasn't expecting that. Yan smiles as she leaves him alone and says that he must work hard. If he doesn't want to be punished, Ben tries to understand if he heard correctly, but Yan jumps over the wall and says she will meet him tomorrow. The protagonist could not sleep without a threat from a girl. The next day arrive and class 11 gather in the training hall. The protagonist watch with fear because this time Light and Yun seem fierce. Suddenly the blonde boy is thrown away and calls the protagonist, who quickly approach. Light starts crying, asking why the protagonist said he would teach him something and brought him here to take all the blows. Suddenly Yan yelled that this is to train his body. It is natural that it is this way. A girl that Light does not learn just by observing once as a protagonist, so he must stop whining and stand up. Light says that he wants to use the sword and Yun replies that he will not do that. The first step is to learn to fight without using the sword. White scream. Asking how she dare to take the sword from a swordsman, Yun asks if he intends to give up on life if one day he meets an enemy and is without a sword. The boy replies that he does not. And she encourages him to learn hand-to-hand combat. The protagonist tries to calm his friend and he says he is only doing it to help his growth. Then he asks Light to trust at distance. In fighting without a sword, his friend finally agrees and trusts the protagonist and thinks that the boy would do nothing to harm him. Light gets up excited to start over. The next moment Yun's foot hits his face and she says that he should not leave opening. The protagonist was also taken by surprise by the agility of the attack. Yun continues a sequence of kick while saying that Light must fix his posture and block the attack. The guy uses his hand to defend himself and feels that everything is too fast to counter attack. Yun asks where his combat instincts are, and finally realizes that Yun was not wrong when he said that Light would not know how to fight without a sword. Normally with his strength he could even defeat Erecto. But now he is acting as if he were a novice in hand-to-hand combat. His skills seem to have been expelled. The protagonist wonders if he was blind. For not noticing his friend's difficulty, Yun concentrates his punch at fast level and taunts Light, saying that he is completely useless without a sword. Light replies that this is not true. Yun says that if he thought like that he would not be looking for the sword all the time instead of focusing on the open. Light is so angry that a golden light escapes from his body. Yun looks without understanding what is happening. At that moment a boy tries to attack her. Rachel and Ben stare at Light, frightened by his transformation. Rachel asks if this is his true form, simply a guy has turned into a girl. The protagonist asks if it's some suppressed power that escaped. Yan is angry in the look. Light's uniform starts to glow brightly. And suddenly he falls to the ground. The protagonist runs toward him and Yan stops him, saying that everything is fine, it's not something they can solve. Light goes back to his masculine form and his uniform look destroyed. Girl with black eyes asks if he knows what the problem is. Light replies yes and says she doesn't want to continue like this, then asks if Yun can continue training him. The girl replies that first she need to apologize because she misjudged him. Light replies that he doesn't need to, but Yun says that initially thought he was a clueless idiot. But in fact he is an idiot carrying a bomb on his back. Light was tricked into thinking that at least once in his life he would not be insulted. He yelled that he doesn't like Yun. Meanwhile Rachel asks the protagonist what they should do. The girl hears no answer. And realize that Ben is motionless. It turned out that his infinite reading ability showed that light possessed a Lee spirit and demonic spirit. The protagonist does not know how such opposite concepts can coexist in one body. Perhaps this was the cause of the explosion et décided to take to light latte in the dormitory. Then turned to Rutel and apologies for not hearing his call. The girl replied that it's okay and says she want to try too. Ben is afraid because of a last experience. Rutel asks for help. She is sure she has a means to contain her power, so she need to learn how to do it. The protagonist feels intimidated and takes distance et didn't want the girl to make an effort because the event yesterday was traumatic enough et décided to train her on his own. And dans her wooden sword, the protagonist says that it doesn't need to be a intense light, just make light movement. And gradually increase intensity. Rachel replied that et understand the protagonist is again lost in his thoughts before coming to this dimension. He dreamed of going to college. A boy never imagined that his college life would be a chaotic. It is he need to confess that now he is happy. At that moment Rachel doesn't even seem to know how to hold a sword. The protagonist tell her to run up and the girl got it wrong. It took the form of a blast and charged toward him. 5 minutes was enough for Rachel to lose control. The protagonist had to rely on F's help. Moment later Rachel's hair returns to normal. And Ben celebrates that she is back. She asks how many times this has happened. The protagonist replied that it was more than 10 times and he is very tired. Rachel cries and apologies. Ben strokes her hair and says it's okay and prepared in advance in case this happened, so she doesn't have to feel bad. Rachel feels a sinister aura and when she looks at Ian, he screams scared. Ian asks why the protagonist is calmly talking to the beast instead of training her. The girl carries light by the foot and seems jealous of Ben. Rachel says that the protagonist was helping because he cared about her. Ian accuses the girl of having ulterior motive and says that she shouldn't train with wandering thoughts with her open. It's good to forget about it the next time you enter the room. Rachel is silent. The protagonist realizes that the girl always loses her excitement when she told to Ian, and also doesn't understand how determined she was to train after making so much physical effort yesterday. Anyway, the important thing is that the girl is striving to improve. The protagonist says that he is right and Yoon watch carefully what the boy is going to say. Ben says that she received approval to leave Iceland for a moment. And this time she can't take a person with him. Yoon is sure that she will be chosen and says that it is great because she is tired of staying here. Ben looks at Rachel and asks if she wants to go with him, breaking Yoon's expectation. Even Light was surprised. But the protagonist said he wanted a date with Rachel the next day. Arrive Ben wait for Rachel in a store. He is in connection with Yoon and Light. The girl told him not to stay late on the street. Light cried saying that the protagonist preferred to take a girl instead of his roommate. At that moment a voice calls Ben. Rachel says that he tried on the cloth and asked for. She asks how she is. A girl confesses that she has never worn something so short and is embarrassed. Protagonist avoid saying exactly what he is thinking because they are indecent thoughts, so he raises his finger saying that the clothes are good. Yoon realizes what is happening and starts insulting Ben while Light prefers to leave the call before he sees something. And a few minutes later Rachel looks delighted at the city that exists outside the academy. The protagonist says that it is really stunning and adds that now they are going to another department store. Ben walked ahead and did not realize that there were many people in the district. Rachel ended up losing sight of his friend and soon became desperate. The protagonist goes back and touches her hand asking if something happened and apologizes for forgetting that she never came here before. And ending up leaving her behind. Rachel replied that it's no problem. Ben is embarrassed to say that they need to hold on so they don't get lost in this crowd. The girl agrees shyly. After that they do some shopping and go to some store. Both are easily mistaken for a couple since they are walking hand in hand all the time. They have fun and decide to end the day eating at a restaurant. The protagonist asks if it's okay for her because he heard that the meat in this place are made of monsters. Rachel replied that she likes it. She tries the food and says that it is very good. The protagonist agrees that it is better than he thought. Rachel has been eating his favorite dish since et joined a gym. She tell herself that it is thanks to Ben. The protagonist realize that she has stopped for a moment and asks if something went wrong. Rachel reply no, in fact she is very happy to be invited by him. The girl says that today she received several beautiful gifts and is even eating her favorite dish, but she feels that she cannot repay all this. Rachel thinks that she does not deserve to have so much fun because she does not believe that she can control her ability. She cannot eat that she is insecure. The protagonist has an idea and asks her to look at the orb in her hand. The emotion she is feeling are in her hand. Rachel interrupts the explanation to say that he can't see any orb. Ben decided to summarize it with words and says that before a girl was very angry. And he could feel her negative emotion, but now she is fine and her emotion have changed. Maybe the solution is to create pleasant environment for her. Rachel asks if a protagonist can use the ability to see her concern. Ben answer yes and crush orb, destroying a girl's bad emotion. Rachel is scared and the protagonist promises once again that he will solve her problem, so he wants a girl to enjoy today. Without thinking about reciprocating anything, Rachel finally feels good. Ben apologizes if it seemed oppressive and she says it wasn't, and the girl says she that she wants to get closer to Ben like her. The protagonist asks who Rachel is talking about. She says she's talking about Yan. The two seem very close. Ben disagrees with that and says that Yan attack him whenever and quand Rachel says that Yun scare everyone with his webu and seem to like a protagonist a lot. Ben doesn't think that it in fact is afraid whenever Yun touch a sword. Rachel start logging and Ben asks what's funny. She says she's relieved now, because she thought he was a god who feared nothing. Rachel approach Ben's face and says that now he feel he can try harder. Then he start to pull him by the hand, saying that he is going to buy clothes for him too. Our protagonist is happy to see that she has returned to normal. The girl start running while he takes the bag. Night comes and the scene change to the academy's meeting room. Yamina asks Ben's artifact to wait a little longer because it's almost over at that moment. Someone complains about the video recorded by the protagonist. The guy asks who allowed something like this to happen in the tower. The teacher with glass says that precious information is being spread recklessly and suggests stopping him. Someone says that from the beginning they shouldn't have carelessly accepted someone from such a low dimension. At that moment a meeting conductor calls Yamina and says that the autonomous behavior of that student went too far. She must know that this is clearly a violation of authority of the academy. Then asks how the teacher intends to take responsibility. Yamina look at the recording and finds surprised to see that Ben recorded the inside of the tower. The truth is that she thought that the protagonist would not be able to do something like this since external artifacts normally do not work inside the tower because they are overloaded and break due to the strong magic emitted by the place. But he did something surprising and may not even know it. We can say that small camera robot did most of the work. Yamina didn't wait for the protagonist to make a tool that works inside the tower. But that is not all. He also publicly posted this video on the channel. Ben's idea was to make Rebellion become famous and gain favor of a student of the academy. Yamina tried to make him change his mind by saying that he could spread the information about the tower that everyone worked hard to get. But the Ben replied that it was okay to do that because other people would also report their experience with the other students. He also said that he would eat the information about the constellation. Yamina tried to change his decision by talking about the unpleasant reality of the academy. But the protagonist chose to post the video anyway, even knowing that there would be big repercussions. A teacher warned that this incident could bring big and small change. The protagonist stood firm and asked her to trust her group. Yamina was a little shy with her courage. She advised the boy to avoid accident. Even if he feels safe now, the teacher was being intimidated by her student's attitude. But deep down she was sure that the creation of a protagonist could result in something immense that transcends the gap between dimensions. A teacher asks if she plans to take responsibility. Amina decided to support her student, then says that filming and posting the tower video is a personal matter for each challenger. She sees no problem with this attitude. And add that she doesn't know what responsibility Professor Canton is talking about a man log and says that this statement makes it seem like she care about that student. The leader of Artifact Creation Department Named Liriana joint a conversation. She asks who this guy is and Yamina reply that he is an ordinary student. Professor Ryu in charge of ORAS Combat Studies says that he can't believe it's an ordinary student. The information from the tower should only be for the academy. So it's clearly a violation of Academy's authority. Yamina disagree because the only reason why no one has filmed the tower so far is simply because they didn't have the artifact for it. It would be important for everyone to collaborate and try to learn a little of her skill. Anthony asks her to explain about technology and skill, so that everyone can understand. Liriana interferes because she knows that the teacher is losing control. She says that she spent 200 years working on an artifact that could be used in the tower and he came to the conclusion that it is impossible, especially precision equipment for filming her research showed that no artifact could withstand the manhwa emitted by the tower. Mina interrupts her and says that Ban managed to do it. Liriana says that it doesn't make sense. The student from a low dimension without mana to do something like that. At that moment she notices a small robot and prepares the glove to study the artifact that films the video of a tower. Ariana says she will disassemble it and find out what kind of technology a protagonist used to do it. Yamina protects the small robot and says that she only broke him here because they asked to see her student's artifact but and can't let anyone touch him. The teacher starts accusing Yamina of not wanting to cooperate. Suddenly Someon asks them to keep quiet. Vice president of the academy Named Zenon says that things can be resolved without scandal. Everyone obeys and is silent. In turn to Liriana and thanks her for the research and effort invested over almost 200 years. The woman is embarrassed by the vice president's word. Zenon asks if she thinks Ban is special, and Liriana replies yes while they tag the artifact is still recovering from the threat it suffered just now. Canton asks what the vice president is thinking. Zenon replies that the protagonist is the only one in the world recognized by the tower. The other teacher disagree because Ban joined a short time ago and comes from a low dimension. Even if this is the opinion of the vice president, they think this statement is reckless. Xenon replies that he has a reason to think that. Then he asks Yamina to share something from the video so that the teacher understands. Yamina is confused. The vice president says that maybe she doesn't know it, so he will tell everyone. The man speaks loudly that Ban and his classmate from class 11 are the only one who were chosen by a constellation. A teacher are stunned by a news. It is unbelievable that a rookie was chosen after climbing the tower only once. Yamina asks the vice president not to speak carelessly. Xenon questions if Ben and the other student made a contract with the constellation. Teacher does not know why the man is going so far and denies that her student has made any agreement. Zeno assumes that it must have been difficult to express himself in front of a divine constellation. In this case it is better to make class 11 watch his lecture. The teacher has commanded this is absurd. There is no reason to benefit these students who did not sign a contract with the constellation. A vice president says that he does not care if they closed an agreement or not. What matters is that they have been chosen by a constellation. Surely other constellation will be interested in them after this contract has been refused. That is why he is willing to give the student chosen by the constellation. He asks if the teacher have any objection. Certainly no one is against it. The vice president ends by saying that regarding the case of filming, no teacher can prevent something like this from student. Question and personal request will be allowed. Yamina is sad. She knows that this meeting what the vice president want to do with the protagonist is not for the best in the class. They are just instruction from a president. Xenon says that any teacher who try to intimidate the protagonist will be expelled. After that he says goodbye to everyone, wishing them a great weekend and teleport. Yamina didn't expect that the protagonist would be able to get to the president so quickly. Suddenly the teacher is taken out of her thoughts by an unexpected invitation. Anthony asks if she wants to have a drink at the bar to toast her student's success. A little robot doesn't like the idea at all. Amina simply teleport without responding to the invitation. A teacher make themselves available to accompany Anthony. The next day ban was stopped in the middle of a cafeteria by other students. They were interested in the protagonist's talent. There were so many questions that ban felt suffocated. Some girls even asked him out on a date and watched a scene from afar and asks why there is a crowd around. Ben Light asks if she remembers a channel they created. They surpassed 2 million subscribers after posting the Tower video. It can be said that at this point it would be more difficult to find Someon at a gym who has not seen the channel. Yoon does not seem very happy with the approach of a girl since the protagonist but understands the interest of a student because he knows that Band's skills are really remarkable. Rachel is silent. The protagonist finally meets with his friends and says that this Monday morning is very different. Light says that it must be good to be famous. The protagonist replied that the channel belongs to them too, so if they find any fan they have to be kind. Light agrees. Suddenly Someon asks out loud if this noise is because of manipulated images. These delinquents are the same one who harassed Rachel earlier. The blue-haired boy says that only low-dimensional people like that channel. He also thinks that the video is manipulated because there is no spider of that size. Ornegi says that tomorrow all these lies will be exposed. Light asks what is tomorrow, and the protagonist replies that it is a day he will fight against that arrogant erect. Calls him that those who are duping the video are looking forward to the fight, probably because they want to see him get crushed. Rachel and Light are worried and asks if he is confident to respond in the best possible way. To the support of those who like the channel, Ben smiles and says yes, he will strive for tomorrow to be the best. Event the next day arrive and the opponents are ready. The teacher warned that the duel will be broadcast live on the official channel of the school. If you agree, just sign a document. Interface appear in front of both and they agree. The rules of the duel are simple. If Someon is seriously injured or surrounded, the duel ends. Attacking vital points forbidden but injury are at your own risk. The protagonist realizes that he can be incapacitated in this fight. Erect calls him and asks if he is ready. He says that Ben may be afraid, and says that the boy can surrender if something happens. The protagonist looks surprised. Then Rex says that he will accept his surrender if he crawl and bark like a dog. Ben widens his eyes without understanding anything. Meanwhile, new spectators begin to arrive in the arena. A unpleasant duo from before already expect a defeat of a protagonist. Kordama is also in the stand and his attention is directed to Yoon. The black-eyed girl asks Light how the reaction is. He says that the live spectators have exceeded this 0.000. But most are cursing Ban. Rachel says it's unfair and Yoon replied that it was to be expected. That SY Ben has to win. Many people are watching and at best he can surprise everyone. Now there is no choice but to prove that he has talent. Meanwhile, the protagonist is wondering if he heard it right. To him, this phrase of crawling and barking like a dog sounds like it was from a third rat novel. At that moment, Ben tells Erectus that his word had an effect. Now he will show his potential. The open log and says that he is acting very calmly. The protagonist turns his back, saying that he can act calmly. He takes the sword out of inventory and says that Erect can figure it out on his own. The stone yells at Professor Jun to quickly declare the start of a duel because he wants to break this gi into pieces. The teacher starts the fight between the student of class 1A and the student of class 11. Erect prepares his fist to crush the protagonist. That student is so big that his step destroys the arena. The protagonist stands motionless, looking at the enemy's fist approaching his face. Erecto is clearly confident because of his size, but Ben knows he can use agility to his advantage. At that moment, the protagonist slides back and jump toward Erecto's face. He believes that the open will not be able to stand out if he is too slow. Erecto is hit in the face with the sword and falls backward. Ban lands gracefully on the ground. The night after the day that Rutil and the protagonist went on a date. Class 11 go together to talk about the method that Ban would use to face that stone. The protagonist thought of some technique, but before using it there was a law of trial and error. Yoon advised to use that technique of deflecting the opponent's attack and counter-attacking. If you do that, you can say that you totally master a reverse method. She pick up a branch saying that she will attack with different speed and different shapes so ban need to fight at least once. The protagonist remember the training he received and tell himself that Erecto is totally different from Yan the stone he almost couldn't even touch him. Ban followed the plan and hit a stone man's face before hitting infuse the sword with energy. It was a great attack because that rock hard body seemed to transmit energy of wave well at that moment. Erect tremble in anger and scream asking how he dare to touch his body. The protagonist face the open and asks if he can stop winning and act like a man and manage to provoke Erecto the guy to hit him with that stone and the protagonist dodge. Erecto is being consumed by rage and refer to Ban a low-dimensional mongrel asking how he dare to despise him like this and realize that he really annoys the open. Erect energies his hand with force magic and says he will finish him off. The protagonist managed to dodge that attack. He thought that Erect would try a different method. After being hit for the first time by acting like this is even better for Ban. Erect continues the attack in the same way without any countermeasure. At that moment the protagonist makes an aerial attack with the sword elan on the ground after several precise blows to Erecto's hand. The enemy screams in pain and he feels his armor raveling.